And welcome. It's time to go live. It's time to go live. Still trying to wake up. Hi, everybody. Looking through the chat here. You guys are debating what year that guitar is, or maybe what year the guy is in the photo. So some people said 89, some people said 86, 87. I'm talking about the thumbnail for this video that I'm doing right now. It's a BC Rich NJ, BC Rich Bitch NJ series. It's got to be 83, 4 at the 83, I think. Because by the time 84 rolled around, or 85, I already had like Kramers and Hamers and different guitars and stuff. So I was guitar mad, and there's a lot of different guitars throughout the 80s. But Ben says, "Holy crap, on time." Well, sort of. I'm, it seems to get later every day, doesn't it? Or every week, I should say, a little bit. Maybe I'm just inching towards noon. I think, yeah. So I just don't think anyway. Joe Harvey wants a foot rub, and he's also saying 86 or 87. I think it's earlier than that. By 86 or 87, I had my Jackson. I think like 84, 85. I went through a series of, I took a trip to LA at one point, and my dad, there was this used Kramer Pacer. Oh God, I still wish I had that guitar. Out of all the guitars in the 80s, it was an original Pacer that was a blue sunburst with a single bridge humbucker and the 3-position toggle, and it was I believe, kind of a weird one. It was like a hockey stick headstock, not the beak headstock, the kind of more similar to Sir's headstock. So it had the beak headstock, kind of a la a Beretta, but it was like a very transitional kind of guitar with it was like a Pacer with a beak headstock, anyways, and blue sunburst. So it was really cool, and I of course traded it and sold it like a year later or something. It's so dumb, because it'd be a real cool guitar to have now. But the following year, I had like a Hamer Chaparral. That was my main guitar. And I want to say that would be like 86. And then by 87, I had my Jackson, which just kind of became my main thing for the next, till like 92 or 3. And I'd already moved down here and stuff. So what else? What else is happening? It didn't get a lot of videos done this week. I put out the video for the new X amp. Is it called Amp Factory? Amp Academy. There's a little modeler pedal right here. That little guy, pretty cool. So you can have 2 channels and A/B between them. I didn't get too much into that, the switching stuff, but just kind of showed the sounds in the video and stuff. You can load IRs in it, or you can use the ones it comes with from Chop Tones. Cool little box. But anyways, I had a TV thing. I'm sort of not supposed to, because it hasn't been announced, so I can't say what it is, but got to go this week and do a television show. And record that for a later date and stuff like that. So that kind of because I was like MDing it and stuff, so it kind of took my week. And what else happened this week? Just some other things. My laptop died. That's always neat. I think it's the motherboard, so I'll get it fixed eventually and probably sell it. But it's kind of time anyway. I don't know if you guys find this, but with computers, I generally find there's a 6 or 7 year. 6 to 7 years, maybe 5 if you use them real hard, but more like 6 or 7. And then they start slowing down and weird stuff starts happening, and all of a sudden this port doesn't work. And, it's almost like planned obsolescence, it feels like. So that happened this week. And I bought a really crazy computer. I bought the top of the line kind of MacBook Pro with the M1 Max chip, 32 gig RAM and terabyte drive and the whole 9 yards. And they're just supposed to be like lightning fast. Like you're supposed to be able to stream something like 8 streams of 8K video at the same time, and it'll handle like 40 streams of 4K video or something. I don't know, something insane. So for video editing, it should be great, and for audio, it'll be a no-brainer. Just be like real quick. So it was an investment, but I've been using a laptop, and I use that to kind of top line circa 2016 iMac. That's what I'm on right now, what you're seeing me on. And I was sort of thinking, what if I just get a monitor in my studio here where the iMac has been, and then I can have the laptop off to the side. And if I just use one machine, and then I can spend, because I know I'd have to replace this computer too eventually within the next year or two. Probably I was planning on upgrading the iMac and getting something else. So maybe I can just get away with the MacBook Pro and a monitor in here, and then I just use that one machine. Is kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah, have one badass computer. So we'll see. To be honest, the iMac that I'm on right now has been brilliant, and I don't have any issues with it or anything. And it knock on wood, hasn't hiccuped or anything. But we'll see. Anyways, it's important for what I do to have a great computer. So kind of it's the most important piece of gear in here, to be honest. I can't do anything without it, whereas anything else in here I can work with other things. So there's a question there from Modern Vintage, a super chat. He says, I have a UA X8P with one high-Z input, just with the 55 Twin or PT100. Okay, talking about plugins, guitar amp plugins, 2 API and a lexicon, but keep running out of DSP. Is this why you use 2 8Ps? 2 API and a lexicon. So you've got a lexicon UA plugin or something. I didn't know they had a lexicon plugin. Is that 480 or whatever? Like the reverb. That sounds like it's running out a little quick. So the deal is, for those out there that don't know what we're talking about, the universal audio interfaces have internal DSP, and they run plugins on those chips, not on your computer natively, with the sort of thinking that the computer power is saved for, running the DAW and doing different things, and all the plug-in load, that the power that's needed is done internally in the interface, and it allows for lower latency, and they can make their plugins really crazy and stuff, power wise, because they can run on the DSP or whatever, and it just that's kind of the UA model. So and he's saying he's kind of running out of juice with only a few plugins open. So that's interesting. It might be worth a call to UA, to be honest, to ask. The amp plugins do tend to use a fair amount of DSP, but it doesn't sound like you've got a heck of a lot going on there. Maybe the lexicon one, depending on what it is, because there's certain reverbs I've found that take a lot of juice. One of them being the Ocean Way plugin is like a major hog. It'll use like 40% of one chip. But you've got an X8P. Isn't that a 4-core, four chips in there, I would think. So it does sound like it's maybe worth a call to them, to just ask them about, there's settings in there that allow you to limit the sort of the plug-in load and how much you can, it might be worth opening up. You've probably done that, but the UA control panel and looking at that kind of stuff, and just looking at how the load is distributed, because you can look at it shows each chip in the UA what's it called, control panel, meter and control panel, and if you open that up, it'll show you exactly how it's getting distributed and stuff. And I guess you could set up a customer service thing with UA and say, does this jive with what, because it seems like I'm running out of power. Is it like you configure your UA console like that as a template or something, and you leave that stuff open all the time? Because you might just want to make a blank template that doesn't have that stuff in it for when you're doing other things like mixing, or because when you go to mix, once you've already tracked, you don't need those guitar amps open anymore in the console, and you can just pull them off. I assume you're using them in the unison slots. So, the other thing is, if you're using them all on one channel, there's a load limit where I find I can only run a couple things like on each channel. So if I've got a PT100 plugin open in the unison slot, and then I've got, say, an 1176 or something below that, a compressor, maybe one more thing like an EQ, that's it. That's all I can do on one channel, and that's normal, because it's going to kind of use one chip to do all that per channel. There's just like a limit to how much you can do. So you might want to just leave some of those things for later in the mix, because you'll get the exact same sound if you just insert them in your DAW on the channel. when you go to mix, and you won't run it into those load limit per channel things that you do within console. I hope some of that is somewhat helpful. T-Top, another super chat. He's over there in Europe. What's happening, man? Or in the UK? Sorry, is that? I get my pounds and euro sign mixed up sometimes. I think you're in the UK. 1987X with Power Station Sir Badger in stereo. Okay. Got it. Sir Badger in stereo. That's probably pretty cool sounding. Possible to use both loops for time-based effects. Send from one to return of another. Or is this lucky to be ground loop? Hell, you can kind of do that. How are you splitting to stereo? Are you doing it post loop? Like, in other words, there's two ways to do this. You could use something like a chorus pedal in front of both amps and split to the front of both of them, and you're in stereo right out of the gate. Or you could go into one amp, and then out of that amp's effects send, you come to some sort of time-based or delay or reverb effect. Take the stereo outputs of the effect and go back to the returns of both amplifiers. So those are the two different ways to do it. It's not really ground loop hell, but there is just going to be a ground loop with either scenario, and you just need to lift one of them. There's different ways to do it. You can use an isolation transformer on, you know, if you're running, say, the first scenario, chorus pedal delay or something into both amps on the cable going to one of the amps, you just have to put an ISO transformer. Or you can do the same thing through the effects loops ISO transformer going to one of the returns. Different companies make these. Sometimes I keep one around here that I can just show. I don't know if I have one here right now. Yeah, there's one right here. Here's an inexpensive one that I always recommend that seems to work fine. You can find that on probably, you know, Sweetwater Musician's Friend website or something. I think I bought one of these at Sam Ash. I get this one I got on the road once because I had forgotten mine and I was off doing a clinic tour, and it's like, oh no, I've got a terrible buzz. What am I going to do? So it's very similar to like the Palmer one. You know, you just plug in this one's kind of neat because it's got a combo jack on this side that allows you to plug in either XLR or 1/4 inch. And then there's the little ground lift button here, so you can switch it in and out and hear what it's doing. And then you've got an XLR or 1/4 inch on the other side to come out and go to, you know, so in other words, you know, if you were splitting out to two amplifiers, two cables, you can, you know, run the send into this and take the 1/4 inch output. Is that, sorry. It's the return that you want to do. So you take that, the one return, say the left return would go out of the pedal and then go into the return of amplifier one, let's say, you know, and then the right would come out of the pedal and go into here. You'd have the ground loop on, and then you'd send out of here to the return of the second amplifier. Does that make sense? I hope so. Anyway, Palmer makes one, little one like that, about the same size, maybe a little smaller. Ebtech makes them. So hopefully that's helpful. There's other ways you can do what you're talking about. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can put different effects in the loop of each amp, I guess. You could have two different delays with different times. It just depends how you're splitting and stuff. We got Scotland in the house. We got Santa Barbara, California there with a cup of noodles. Let's see. John says, sounds like a massive pain in the ass. This is regarding the UA thing. It's not really a pain in the ass at all. It works pretty flawlessly. You know, I like all different interfaces. I like UA, I like Apogee, I like different ones. But the UA stuff, it's just how they started by running the plugins on their chips. And it's not a pain in the ass per se, because, you know, you need a plan with the interfaces that you've got to have enough DSP to run as many plugins as you want. That's all. And they make things like accelerators, like extra boxes that have more DSP in them that you can hook up, just daisy chain them via Thunderbolt. And it's just part of, you know, the neat thing is that, like, I do have two here in the studio. I have a 8P, Apollo 8P, and my main machine is the Apollo X8P. So two 1-rack space interfaces. I've got them linked via Thunderbolt, and then the cable goes out to my computer for the interface. and they just see one another, and they automatically detect one another. The one machine is the main one, the X8P, but I can also use the inputs on the other one, and it also hooks up the DSP on the other one. So I have like 8 cores, I guess, because they're both 4-core machines. So I have 8 cores that I can run right there. I have an extra accelerator as well, like a it's called a satellite. It's just this little box from them that's 4 cores as well. So I could then daisy chain another cable to that, and then I could have 12 cores if I was doing like a really crazy mix. So you just keep adding these things as you need power. That's all. That said, yes, the UAD plugins are power hungry. You know, they use a lot of juice, but that's, you know, they sound really good. So when the way that I work around all this stuff is when I'm recording, if I want to use plugins, I use other plugins that like not in UA console. If I'm talking about like I just need some EQ or compression, I don't pull up the UA stuff. I use like Steven Slate on the channel, or I'll use the Logic plugins, just the stock ones a lot. That work fine, and they work at very low latency, you know, imperceptible, you know, they don't add a lot to the CPU, and I'll use those when I'm tracking and stuff. And then when I go to mix, if I want to use some specific UA plugins, I use those, which I use on the bus. If I'm mixing, you know, a song, like many times when I'm just doing video demos and stuff, I don't use them because it's like I just work with the Logic plugins and whatever, and I try and do minimal processing anyway when I'm doing a video demo, because I'm trying to show you what a pedal sounds like. So I'm not trying to alter the tone that much or do different things. If I'm mixing a song for an album of mine or something, I'll then maybe use more UAD plugins and put more time into it and more thought and stuff like that into, you know. And by the way, UA Luna, their DAW is designed to, with its own kind of workaround for this situation, where when you're tracking things, you can put it in what's called ARM, or accelerated real-time monitoring mode, and then it disables a bunch of plugins that, you know, just so you can get a part tracked or whatever, and there's no latency. And then when you turn the ARM off, then there'll be latency, but all the plugins come back on, and it can, you know, it's just part of working with computers. It's part of the, you know, I guess there's always little compromises and things you need to do. In the analog world, you need to stop every hour and, you know, clean the heads and demagnetize. You know, if back in those days you run out of tape every 15 minutes, you know, I mean, there's 15 minutes of tape on a reel, on a 24 track reel. The reels were like $300 each, you know, so you needed, I mean, when you go to just record an album and you want to do maybe multiple takes, it's like, well, we might do, you know, 2 takes of each song. Well, now you're looking at going to buy, just consider, you know, 15 minutes. You can basically put 3 songs on a reel. You know, it used to be the thing, like, let's take $5 grand and go buy tape so that we can make a record. It's just, you know, there's always something, you know, with every way to record, I guess. So what else we got here? Let's see. Looking through the chat here. Peter Evans in Santa Monica, one of my favorite places in the LA area, and really anywhere. What's happening, man? Yeah. York says, oh, this is a good point too that I didn't reference. Running the interface at 96K will drop the instances in half. Yeah, if you run 2448, you can get more going, which I do. I don't record 96K. I've tried it. I don't know. For the music I make, I mean, it's just, it's a pain to go up to, you know, 192, 96, you know, like the upper echelons of, you know, when rock and roll, I mean, you can't hear guitar over 5K anyway. It's like, you know, it's lo-fi instrument, so no, it's mainly guitar I'm worried about. So, you know, with what I do. Speaking about computers again and stuff, Lauren's mentioning here new good things about the Mac Mini Pro. Yeah, they call it Mac Studio. It really looks like, I don't even know if it's Mac Mini does it justice anymore. They call it Mac Studio now, and it's like got a ton of, you know, Thunderbolt ports and you know, like it's really like a burning fast machine. And I did think about, you know, maybe I get one of those, but I don't even know if I need that now that I've got this crazy laptop. Like, do I need 2 computers? Having 2 computers, a laptop and a studio computer, you know, anytime I get a new plugin or update something, I need to do it on the other machine. It always creates this layer of, you know, where I'm going back and forth between the 2 machines, even updating Final Cut Pro on one machine for video editing. Now I haven't done the update on the other one. I've created a library in Final Cut Pro to do my projects in for video editing and stuff. I'll go plug the drive into the other machine. It'll say, oh, you can't run this project on this machine because was created on a newer version of Final Cut Pro that I did here. Does that make sense? So it's like there's always this, I gotta update both machines, I gotta whatever. You know, it might be just easier to just have one computer, and obviously like way less expensive. And the new laptops are so burning that you know, seems you know, pretty, like a pretty good way to go. So you're saying Mary Spender reviewed it a couple weeks ago. Was it a laptop that Mary got? I wonder. It just makes more sense because then I can take it with me and then just plug it in here and maybe have a big monitor and that, and even have 2 screens. So I kind of got into this idea yesterday and just made the move. So anyways, yeah. Lauren says, yes, computers die, you know, heating up and cooling down stresses the micro connections, and eventually they go. And I think running a lot of intensive apps, you know, like especially Final Cut and doing heavy duty video editing or syncing and stuff, you know, they get hot, and that happens. So somebody at the Mac store yesterday was telling me like it can be 10 years if all you do is email and browse the web that your computer will last, but it's more like 5 years if you're, you know, doing heavy, you know, production stuff. And so yeah. Arthur says the super chat won't let me donate, yo. That's okay, man. That's okay, because we're all here. What else we got here? Let's see. We got Todd Roy in Nova Scotia. What's happening, man? I didn't know you were out there. That's cool. I've only been to Nova Scotia once. I'd love to go again. Who's been to Eastern Canada, way out to like Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland, and all those places? It's really fun out there and beautiful and different. And you know, when you consider there's a whole nother time zone of Canada that exists beyond the east coast of the United States, it's kind of amazing how it juts way out up there. And when you're in Newfoundland, you're in St. John's, they say you're closer to Ireland than you actually are to Toronto. You know, that's so far out there to the east. And what a city. That was a great place. But Halifax, Nova Scotia, that's another great city. The band Sloan started there, I do believe, didn't they? I think. Did they? I think. Anyways, where's your Line 6 DL4 Mark II demo? I was wondering that too. I got to talk to my buddy Matt at Line 6 and say like, hey, but you know, they got Rhett to do a video for it. Maybe they only needed one, you know, from one of there's probably other guys that did it too. I'm not sure, but I did the boss, so you know, so Matt's probably mad at me because you know, no, it's all good. I did the RE202. I'd like to try the DL4 though and see what it sounds like. I actually made some videos for Line 6 though recently, and I was just maybe, you know, they can allocate their budgets for, you know, making videos with guys. There were some videos that are going to be coming out that are kind of more like instructional ways to use the Helix, and I just did them here, but they were like, you know, I don't think they put them out yet. So, but I probably wouldn't care if I talk about them. It's more things like how to use the Helix for live streaming, which is actually really cool because it's got a microphone input on it as well as like 1/4-inch inputs. You can run 2 chains, so you can have one for a mic and one for, so like doing this thing, it's actually an easy way to play some guitar and have the mic set up if you wanted to do that. Also on like, you know, how to do like bass recording, running a clean DI, an amp sim, maybe a dirty amp sim, and record all of those at once using the Helix as an interface, because it's an interface. Doing some other things, you know, there was a couple others that I did that are these sort of like, I think the idea is maximizing, you know, the Helix, using it in ways that that you may not have thought of if you own one, like some different ways to utilize it because it's quite versatile. So yeah. This is interesting. Angus says, is it not kind of cool that your signature pickups are in the Strandberg guitar, even though those guitars are not your cup of tea? You know, I haven't really given one a fair shake. I would like to try one and sit down with one and give it a try and see like, what's this all about? Like, but it's not that they're not my cup of tea. They're just so different that it feels like feels like one of those things where that would become your thing. Like you would play that guitar, get used to that, you know, the totally different neck thing, no headstock. And so anyways, not saying they're not my cup of tea. It's just a big shift. I think they would acknowledge that that's probably the case, you know, that, yeah, it requires kind of a paradigm shift in the way that you think about playing. But anyways, it is really nice that they do use the Sir pickups in the Strandberg guitars. I think that's really nice. And I didn't know, to be honest, that they use mine in particular on a certain model. So I'll go look at their website and see what they're doing. I thought maybe they were just like the SSVs and stuff, but that's cool. I'm honored. Very nice. Who else we got here? Let's see. This is a good question. Any of you guys know if the Wilkinson locking saddles will fit the Ibanez T1802 Goto bridge? You know, if it's designed to be like a plate that looks like a vintage Fender situation, they might just work fine. Your mileage may vary though. I'm not really sure. I put them on the Goto 510, no problem. So this would be a question for Goto, really. You know, how similar is the base plate on a 510 to a 1802? Are the holes the same, you know, in the back for the screws to go through for the saddles? You know, question for Goto or a question for Wilkinson. And they're pretty good on email. They should hit you back if you hit them on email. Let's see what happens. I'll go down to the bottom of the chat. Lots of comments here. How does the EVH Frankie to play? Is it easy to play? I think it's really easy to play. The EVH guitars, you know, it's kind of a wide flat profile. I got very used to that neck when I was getting songs ready to do that Van Halen gig with Mitch. And I played the guitar a lot. And then it kind of one of those things where it felt odd to go back to another neck later, because I was just playing those guitars so much for a couple of weeks, more like a month. It's a nice neck, and I think it's quite easy to play. And it's quite familiar to me, growing up in the 80s and playing that kind of wide, flat, big fret kind of thing, you know. Yeah, so long story short, I think they're really easy. Brett says, is your new Mac an M1? Yeah, so it's a M1 Max, like the crazy one, evidently. I guess there's an M1 Ultra now that just brought out a new chip. Because the M1 Max has been out since last fall, I think. But anyway, yeah, it's a crazy one, so it should be pretty fun. It'd be nice for video editing, especially. I'm sure that's where I'll notice the most difference, like in rendering and that kind of thing. You tried the new Mxr modular guitars? No, I didn't even know there was such a thing. I didn't. You guys want to see a cool amp? There's an amp I've got here. It's hard to see, but it's sitting right there. You can see it's just got a white face panel on it right here, bottom of the screen. This is it's Music City is the name, made by Laney. And it's kind of a treble and bass sort of circuit, one channel labeled treble, one channel labeled bass. What it is really similar basically to a JTM 4500 kind of circuit. So it's kind of JTM 45 in the front end, really. And then it's like sort of 100-watt back end Marshall, sort of very similar, really similar to Laney Supergroup as well. And basically a Laney Supergroup, as I'm told. And Partridge Transformers, all Partridge Transformers. And this one is all original. So they made this amp for a store called Music City that wanted their own brand. And so this was kind of one of those, what do you call that, OEM, or I don't know what you call it, but they were, you know, contract manufactured, I guess, to make these amps for Music City. Essentially a late 60s, early 70s Laney Supergroup, a la Tony Iommi and different people that used them. And I'm going to make a video about it, one of my amps in the zone video, because it's a really unique sounding amp. It's not an all-on 10 amp, because neither is a JTM 45. But a JTM 4500 is more stout and tighter, of course, because it's pretty vicious. With the other thing about it is it's like really high plate voltage. Like it'll kill tubes if you put your average EL34 in there. So I'm variacing it down. You can see the blue variac back there. I'm variacing it down to about 95 or 100 volts, because it's supposed to be at 110 max. If you plugged it into 120, it'll blow any tube that you put in there for sure. And it's not meant to run at 120, and it's specifically 110. So I started at 100 and then dialed it back to about 95, and it sounds great right there. And it's really great on about 6. So Friedman did a couple of little tweaks to it. There was switches on each channel, great big rocker toggles. And on, like, say on the bass channel, it's kind of weird because you could like actually switch in a darker sound. I guess they were thinking for bass. So normal channel Marshall basically circuit, So that's pretty dark as it is, or pretty like middle of the road with no bright cap, no, but you know, it's a very kind of warm sound as it is. And then you could go even darker than that on the bass side. Probably not useful for guitar at all. On the other channel, he did a little mod where it's got, this isn't my amp, by the way, I'm borrowing it. So he did a little mod on the other channel so that the switch now is a 3-position bright. So you've got basically off, no bright cap, or you got 100 PF, like a JTM 45, or you've got the big Marshall bright cap, the 4700, like what a late 60s or early 70s Marshall Super Lead would have. So long story short, on the treble side with the big bright cap switched in, the 4700, and you set it up on about 6 or 7, but it's got that kind of fat JTM 45 front end, but solid state rectified, like 100 watts and pretty vicious. It is rocking sounding, really great sound, and different than a Marshall, different than my SL68 up there, which is that more mid forward slightly, you know, it's like a different sound. It's a great sound. They would sound amazing together. I know it. Like if you had 2 412s and, you know, maybe, you know, 2 412s, both variac down to like, you know, half power, and that'd be an unbelievable rig. But anyways, really fun amp. It belongs to my friend Matt Brooks. So and I'm gonna make a video of it in amps in the zone video, and should be pretty cool. He's got a lot of crazy amps, so could become a thing where we make some fun videos and just kind of, you know, historical documented these interests. Like what an interesting amp, you know, Music City, like kind of how many did they make? Probably not that many, you know, and essentially a Laney. This is a good question. How important is impulse response length? So this is for speaker simulation. I see manufacturers making them up to 500, but most devices won't do that. That's correct. So generally speaking, the length of IRs is dependent on how much room sound or early reflections you'd like to have in your IR. A standard close mic IR is just fine at like 20. I mean, we are on the PT15 and the reactive load IR, which are kind of like, you know, reactive load IR is like industry standards. And on the original torpedoes and stuff from 2 Notes, like 20.5 milliseconds was like the maximum. And if you look at the IR, if you look at the wave file of a close mic IR, there's nothing going on after about 20, really almost 18. But like they really kind of, you know, there's just nothing happening there frequency wise. But if you've got you know, any kind of early reflection or room mics in there, it's going to get truncated and lopped off beyond that. So like the line 6 stuff, when you're at 2048 for IRs, it's about 40 milliseconds, I believe. There, debatable. I mean, that could be, you know, if you listen in something like you know, you can use your ears and load in like some of the, say, the Celestion close mic impulse responses into a Helix, let's say, and listen at what is it, 1000. It's 2048 or 1024 are the 2 settings. So 1024 is about 20 milliseconds. 2048 is about 40 milliseconds. The 2 different IR settings. You know, load in the close mics and listen and see if you hear any difference. You're probably not going to hear very much difference at all. If anything, it'll be in the super low frequencies. But now, if you do like there's Celestion room mics. If you want to hear what happens, load in the Celestion room microphone IRs, maybe just the room mic IRs into like a Helix. Listen at 1024 and you'll notice it gets clipped and doesn't sound right. And then at 2048, you'll hear a little bit more of a tail, but it'll also get clipped at a point. You know, now you want to listen to them. There's different IR plugins that you can load in a DAW that'll let you, like MixIR2 does this. I think you can, there's a variable knob that lets you go all the way out to 500 milliseconds or maybe even more. And then you can just dial it back down to 20 if you want. And you can listen and just dial that up. And it sort of, with that control, it'll truncate the IR exactly where you know, at the length that you tell it to. And you can listen and experiment and see what you think, you know. In my opinion, and, you know, what my ears tell me, long story short, the close mic IRs are fine at 20.5 is what we have in them, but you can't really do rooms like that. So, you know, for room IRs, you're probably going to want, as long as you can get, you know, 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds are what the like Cab M does from 2 Notes. And then 500 milliseconds. The Iridium does that. There's not very many hardware loaders that'll do 500, but the Iridium does it. There's a few out there. And that's what you'll want for room mics if you want to have some rooms in there. Jimmy looks cool on the wall. Thanks. Appreciate that. I just missed a super chat. I'm going to get to all these right now. There's Keith. I think that was it. Do you use a brown box in your studio? A brown box, for those that don't know, is a voltage, kind of like a Variac, but it just sort of has a settings on the box that let you, dial back your amp to 100 or 110. Because a lot of vintage amps, for those that don't know, they were designed to work at 110, really. Not 120 volts. So a lot of old Marshalls and stuff that's just, you're getting a little stressed when you run them at 120 because it's 10 volts over what they were ever designed to do. And the brown box can just kind of, save components, save stress on tubes, and many would argue it sounds better. I like amps, old Marshalls and stuff on Variacs for sure, especially if you can bias them and get them biased up to, where they're what they want to see that way. But, I just like the sound. I rarely use my SL68 in full power. It's generally on 90 all the time. It just sounds really great. It sounds it just feels good, with that lower voltage. So long story short, I don't have a brown box, but there's plenty of, there's a Variac sitting right there. And it's the same thing, really. It's, a lot cheaper, actually. But the brown box is cool, and I would like to have one. What pickups, if any, did you end up keeping from the EVH pickup deep dive video? Well, there were some that we borrowed, so we had to give all those back. And then there's some that folks donated for the video. So I still have all those. But, there was a bunch of cool ones in there for sure that were really fun. I think it's no secret. I mean, I like a lot of the pickups in that for different things. It just depends which way you want to go. I like some of the 14K A2 variants. I liked the A5 VH2 pickup quite a bit. I thought it sounded really good. And I think my favorites were the Alnico 2 9K, kind of like the 78 and the Pariah Pastina White. And that pickup was really exceptional, I thought. And but there was many different ones in there. The Sir Thornbucker that we did with an A2, that was a really interesting thing. And that got me thinking and stuff like that. So, I discovered a lot doing it. Anytime I do these experiments, I learn things. It's really, really fun for me. I'm going to grab the other super chats here in just a sec. But if you ever want to do an Amps in the Zone Canadian edition, I'm thinking about sending my 68 Trainer YBA1 to Friedman for modding. You can borrow it for a couple days. That'd be awesome. But actually, he has one. So there's one that I could use. That's the same amp, basically. He's got an old YBA1. It's really cool. Big and burly sounding. But thank you. I do appreciate that. It would be cool to do a YBA one and do a track with it, because it's kind of one of those underrated amps that's out there. Maybe we don't want to let people know they don't know. So it's not really a secret. But what's up, dude? There's Caleb from Nerd Halen. Favorite wireless unit currently? So I use the Axient system from Shure. And let's talk about just for a second here. The Axient is really expensive, but it's the only wireless that you can kind of use worldwide without any problems. So that's the thing, is that it's like, it's bordering on $4,000. It's like $3,800 or something like that. But when I told the folks at Shure that, look, I might have touring in Japan and US and Britain, like all within the same year kind of thing, they're like, oh, you didn't need an Axient. You can't. You just need one, or you're going to have different systems for each region, because it's wireless changes all the time with television and TV and Wi-Fi and cell phones and all kinds of stuff. There's always regulations changing. It's just very difficult to have one system that works worldwide. And the Axient is the one. And you think, God, that's a lot of money. Like, what could be going on in this thing? But when you see it, it's one rack space. It's like this deep and it's heavy. There is a lot going on inside that box, whatever, is happening. It's 2 channels. And it's about as big as a one rack space piece of gear can be. And there's definitely a lot of tech going on inside there as far as networking and stuff goes. Now, a lot of the tours I've done in the last 10 years are bigger productions with, there's like dancers sometimes, and there's a lot of people on in-ears. And so, there's literally folks on these tours that are hired to just do the wireless stuff every day. Like, that'll be one person's job, is to scan frequencies, find 2 available frequencies for every person. And sometimes that means for their instrument and their in-ear. So that means 4 frequencies for that one person. And if you've got 10 dancers and 8 musicians on a gig, that's a lot of Wi-Fi, right? So you need somebody to just do that stuff every day and find clean frequencies, because it'll derail your gig if like one person's like, my in-ears aren't working, my guitar's cutting out, or the dancers can't hear or something on these pop tours. When you see these big productions on stages where everybody's on in-ears and all the musicians are, it's crazy. Like when you think about how many channels of wireless you need. So and different countries have different regulations of which frequency bands you can work within and stuff. So that's the scenario there. And when you go and do these tours, you can't really just like you show up with your wireless and they're like, yeah, we can't use that. Like they're like, we're gonna have to, like, they'll backline systems for all of this, for like, here's your wireless, and it's like, okay, I'm using this Shure wireless. And many times it's Shure because they're great. Shure or Sennheiser generally I see out there. So long story short, I used a lot of Shure wirelesses that didn't belong to me. They weren't mine over the years. That were rented for me and stuff, and I got used to using them. I would show up with some other system. They'd be like, no, we can't use this in Japan. We need to use this. Okay, so then I'd use it, and lo and behold, it would be pretty great. And it was Shure all the time. No dropouts. I could always tune them in. So there's always a little more noise with wireless, especially in going into a high gain amp. And I don't mean like RF. I mean like hiss, because there's op amps in them and stuff. So configuring them and setting the gain staging right so it's the same as a cable. And yet not adding too much noise is always a little bit of a, you spend a little bit of time on it. But I can always do that with a Shure and get a great sound. Shure Digital for the last 10 years. That's most of my Japan, France, that's been what I've been using. So long story short, that's how I ended up at the Axient, I think I'm saying that right, with that system. And that's what I used just in January in the Classic Rock Show tour in the UK, and what I will continue to use, and I love it. And I want to make a dedicated video about the system and stuff and just talk a bit more about it. I'm supposed to do something on that, I believe, with sort of Sweetwater in June. It's a long story, but make a video about it and stuff. But also, their less expensive systems seem to work great. The pedal board based system, I don't have one, but Dave Friedman was telling me those are great for like doing, other types of, they seem to be really pretty flawless and stuff. So if you're playing in a, 3-piece band or 4-piece band, you're going out and doing club shows or, theaters and stuff, maybe that's just fine. If you don't have like this need for intense, wireless, where the thing with those is that they don't let you tune in to a specific frequency. Like literally on the gigs I go to, it'll be like, your frequencies today are 538.42 gigahertz and 537.68 gigahertz. Or they give you 2 channels. So if you have a problem, you can switch over to the other one, and you need to be able to tune your wireless into those specific frequencies. The less expensive $300, $400, $500 units won't let you do that. Whereas when you step up, I think the first level with Shure is the $999, maybe ULXD or whatever it's called. There's GLX, there's ULX, there's the different bands they work within. It's a nightmare trying to figure out what a great YouTube video would be this, and I should probably try and make it with a company like Shure to just sort of clarify like what all these different systems are, and if you're doing this kind of gig, this was what you should look at, even for this region, like you're in the UK or you're in, that I think that would be a great video, and maybe I could do something like that with them. Not musical, really super geeky, but necessary for working musicians, right? Okay, super chats that I missed. Sorry. There's Andrews. I'm going to do that in 2 seconds here, and I'm going to look at Scott's here first. Hey, Pete, I'm getting a 68 basement head today. Cool. What modern Celestion is closest to the G65 from 82-ish? Well, there's the reissue, I guess, is probably the one. There's the G1265 Heritage. I believe they make that now. Don't know quite how close it is. I have it in one cab. Sounds good in that cab, in my Hedgehog cab. But I've never directly compared to an old one. So, your mileage may vary, but it's probably as close as a modern greenback is to an old one, which is kind of close. It's the same spec, same size magnet, same dust cap and all that. It's got the big dust cap. Yeah, 68 Basement Head. That's a cool amp. I have my old, I think mine's a 66 or 67, something like that. Basically the exact same thing. Yours is probably silver, right? And they're great amps, and they're kind of fun for mods too. If you ever think about, like Roy Blankenship did an interesting mod on mine to the first channel. It's kind of a gain mod, really. I think it kind of lifts the EQ out of the way, which gives way more gain because a Fender EQ is very lossy going through that. So it you know, they can be smoking little rock and roll machines, those amps, and even stock with the EQ, you turn up run it into a 412, you know, at 4 ohms, and crank it up, and you basically doesn't Mike Ness, isn't that what he uses? I think for his main rig, an old Bassman and a Marshall cabinet. They're cool sounding. Got to kind of run the bass a little lower, the higher you run them up, you know. But they're pretty rock and roll sounding, really. Fun amps. They'll also do the, you know, cleaner Fender stuff just beautifully. You and a whole bunch of others, Liquid Charlie, should do an EVH tribute album. I'm guessing it would be popular and soothing for us fans. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I've heard of a few people doing, you know, EVH tribute things. It's part of me that thinks the biggest tribute to him would just be doing, you know, my own music, like making another record, maybe doing a song like, you know, I love what it was Nancy Wilson did a track kind of dedicated to him. I thought that was pretty, you know, like her take on it. You know, I have a song that I did for a video a while ago that's definitely super, kind of sounds like Sammy era Van Halen or something, but maybe I lengthen that into a full song and do it as a tribute song or something like that, like just kind of something in the style of, but still sounds like me, because that's what he would want, you know, to do, you know, not like a Van Halen's a really hard band to cover. You know what I mean? And a lot of it, it's we got to give Dave his due, or Sammy, you know, or Michael, because it's really hard to do. It just they were above. They were just above it, you know. Like they. Well, by the way, I did a little email that I'm going to read to you guys. This is about, there's a park in Pasadena that there's a debate in the city council tomorrow. And it's about the naming of this new park. And there was some debate. I thought they'd already decided, but I guess not. It's over the naming of the park, and they were going to maybe call it Eddie Van Halen or Edward Van Halen Park. You know, he was one of the people that was up to, and this park's quite close to my home. And it's just kind of, you know, by coincidence, but I would love it if there was a, you know, that park named after him. I heard then after there's gonna be a stage, and they were just gonna name the stage the Van Halen or Edward Van Halen stage or something. But maybe it's the whole park still, you know. So anyway, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I sent an email into the city council, because they're supposed to read all these emails evidently, you know, as they're debating this and before they make a decision. So I thought I would show you what I read. I'll just read it to you. Naming of Pasadena Park. And this is going to correspondence. If anybody wants to look at this and send it in, correspondence at cityofpasadena.com, I think. Let me see here. Correspondence at, I want to look at the damn length of the email. I believe it's correspondence at cityofpasadena.com. Anyway, so I said, hello, longtime Pasadena resident here. Having grown up thousands of miles away in Canada and relocating to California in the 90s as an aspiring musician, I was well aware of the legacy and the impact of both the band Van Halen and Edward Van Halen. Eddie was my primary musical influence and had a profound impact on my life trajectory. From an early age, the music he created, much of it written in his bedroom in a modest home on Pasadena's Los Lunas Street, lit a fire in me and millions worldwide. Arriving in Pasadena in the 50s as immigrants from Holland, who could have known what the Van Halen brothers would create? Through sheer passion, innovation, and tenacity, their musical art eventually resonated worldwide. But it was a grassroots effort that all started in Pasadena. They truly helped to raise awareness and put the city name on the map. For if it weren't for the Beach Boys, little old lady from Pasadena, right? And Van Halen, I probably wouldn't know of Pasadena. And it's not like I was watching the Rose Bowl or whatever when I was a kid, really, the parade, you know. I was a music kid, and so it was Van Halen and really, yeah, the Beach Boys that were. So anyways, Edward and Alex Van Halen are the embodiment of the American dream. There could be no better example. They came with virtually nothing, worked incredibly hard, and reached incredible heights all through their efforts. They showed us that if you apply yourself and believe in yourself enough, anything is possible. Part of the reason I'm proud to call the great city of Pasadena home is because of their legacy. Many years after arriving in California, I eventually met Edward and became friends. Like all of us, he endured personal struggles, but the Edward I knew was always constantly trying to better himself and be the best man he could be. He loved his family so much and was a giving, caring person, just an exceptional guy, outside of his musical and career accomplishments. So it's sheer coincidence that Pasadena's newest park is close to my home. I would be overjoyed if you named Pasadena's newest park after the great Edward Van Halen. I truly believe it would be the most fitting tribute and a fantastic way to honor his legacy. Edward truly deserves it. Thank you. Gene Simmons. No, that's not my own name. Anyway, you can look into it, and you could send, a note to Pasadena City Council, and they're supposed to read these, at this meeting, I think. They're debating, making a decision on the name of this. So there you go. It doesn't, Andrew, tie in completely, but there's a park, and we're trying to get it named after the guy because we love him. Oh, okay. What else we got here? Do you use or play or record with non-tube amps? Well, the line has been blurred because I use plugins all the time. I use, modelers sometimes, like the Quad Cortex and stuff. As far as like amps go with a speaker in it or a head, not so much. But I do have a Lab L5 that I really like, and I kind of have intended for a while to do something with that video wise. Maybe that's an amps in the zone video. I would just I would love to do a video trying to get the Ty Tabor tone and do an amps in the zone video like that, but you kind of need the other stuff to really get there, I feel like, which is you need the Strat with the specific pickups and the preamp built in and stuff, because that's a big part of the sound, is the way it would hit the amp. So I haven't done that yet, but that's the one amp I have around here that's a solid stator, and it's cool. You just kind of have to set it that one way, the way that he did, with the gain all the way up. I think the mids are on 10. You set you set it a very specific way, and the inputs are labeled high and low, but the low one is the gainier one, and that's what he used to plug it to, the bottom input on the second channel. Kind of interesting. Cup of Noodle says, can you recommend some power supply gadgets trying to clean up my wall power and hopefully reduce noise? I don't really, there's the conditioners, the Furmans, that sort of filter power and do different stuff. There's regulators that keep it, they're more expensive, that'll hold your voltage at 120, even if it's fluctuating. With none of these devices have I ever really heard a reduction in noise or anything. I've heard recently somebody was telling me that they had the grounding check to their place, and that they redid Lauren can probably talk about this. He's in the chat. He'll know more about this, but like, you put the stake in the ground to go, for the grounding and stuff like that. And they redid their place like that. And this friend of mine was telling me that he noticed a big difference in the noise floor and stuff like that. And, as far as the power goes around here, I was wondering about doing that sort of thing, but then I turned off all the power in the building here, and I used a little battery powered amp, and I had the same, because I get a lot of noise in this room, RF and stuff. I've spoken about it before. I used a battery powered amp, and at that point, and the noise was the same. The issues I was having with pickups, I just turned up the gain. It was a little Black Star Fly, and I was having the same problems. And it's like, okay, so it doesn't have anything to do with the power. The power's off in the building. It's not anything in the walls coming through into the, I literally think it's, stuff in the street, power lines, transformers, stuff like that. I took that battery powered amp and I walked about 20 feet into the next building down from me, and I could go down the hallway in that building, and it got less and less and less and less as the further away I got from the street and the power poles and stuff. So I think it's that. So, I don't know. I mean, Furman makes some voltage. I just don't know if you're going to notice a difference or not. I've got a great new one here I should show you, by the way. Thinking of Lauren. He wants my old one of these, but I've got a Furman, which is fine. But this guy actually has some more outputs on it. There's 3 on the front. So this is, I'll give these guys a plug. Is that these guys, Radial, I talk about them all the time, but they really do make great stuff and great tools, you know, and stuff that nobody else really does, sometimes quite as well. So they're my Canadian brothers, and I got to give them some credit. This thing, 3 on the front, and then on the back, look, you know, it's got as many as my Furman does on the back. My Furman has 1 on the front, 1 outlet, but this has, you know, it's great. So it's just sometimes I need to plug in things on the desk and stuff, even pedal adapters and things, and this would work nicely for that. So that's a really cool one. Conditioning as well as just, you know, outlets. So you can find that from Radial. That's it, kind of new. They just brought those out like this year. Best studio headphones under $200. I always recommend these. These are the Status, I think they're called, audio. And then I think they're called I always mix up the name. They couldn't have done it any smaller. And for a guy my age, you know, I went to the optometrist this week, and my optometrist said, you know, you look young for your age, but your eyes are every bit of 50. I was like, thanks. Status Audio CB1. That's what these are called. So these are around, I don't know, they might have gone up. Everything's going up in price these days, but these used to be about $60. They're probably 70 or 75 now. They're great. Highly recommended. I've turned a few people onto them, and people are always happy with them. So look at those Status Audio headphones. I think you can find them on Amazon. They contacted me and said, do you want to try a set of these? And I looked up stuff about them, and, you know, the reviews were like, these headphones have no right to sound as good as they do for how cheap they are. That kind of thing. So I got some, and sure enough, I talk about them all the time because they're really good. Let's see. Jamie says, watched you and Richie last week. Are you all going to be playing an album together soon? Is that Richie Kotzen? That'd be an honor. He'd smoke me on guitar, though. I think he's probably happy with his current collaboration with Adrian. He's a great guy, you know, nice dude. And I had a great time talking to him on the show. I'd love to have him on again and catch up, since he's been, they went over and did a tour in the UK, and, you know, he's always got stuff going on. Nerd Halen says second favorite wireless currently compared to the Accient. So I would recommend looking at the Shure that's around $1,000. I believe it's ULXD. There's the GLX and the ULX, but look at any of those. The digital that are, you know, there's a few different models from kind of like $600 to $1,000, and then if you get a transmitter pack, it's an extra. You know, maybe it ends up being $12.99, something like that. That's what I would go with. It's maybe more than you want to spend, but you know, in many instances, but I think that it's worth it. That's all. Because I can't stand getting to gigs and having wireless issues. It just drives me crazy. And I just had so many problems with lower end wireless and kind of trusting them, and then you get to the gig and there's dropouts like crazy. It just ruins it for me. And you know, obviously would for anybody, right? If the guitar's not working, it ruins your gig. So yeah, look at those. Other brands, Sennheiser, you know, I would trust them with wireless. Probably Audio-Technica. I had an AKG that I used for years, but I don't really think they're doing much with wireless anymore. Maybe they are. I don't know. It was good. AKG digital, pretty good. Used to get the occasional dropout with it, but it was a top-end system, nice sounding system, worked really well. And then once I started using the Shures, they were just rock solid with no dropouts. And it was, you know, I was kind of sold. Just it's through experience. Before I ever bought them or, you know, had one, it was them getting, you know, rented for it just, you know, that told the tale. It was like backline companies worldwide and productions. I'd show up and they'd be like, here's your wireless. And it would be Shure. Okay, I got to use this. But I didn't really know anything about it. And then it was like, try it and be like, oh, turns out it sounds great. And wow, it never drops out. It drops out less than my AKG, which was like top of the line at the time. So, you know, it's through experience and it just being proven to me and shown to me. That's you know, and also Friedman and you know, he does rigs for everybody, and you'd be like, yeah, just sure, that's what you use. That's what everybody uses. They make great stuff. So sure, thanks for making great stuff. We love you. Yep, yep, yep. Okay. Looking down through the chat here. See what you guys are talking about. What do we got? What do we got? Can you tell me a good acoustic electric guitar for the price? Sure. I did a review recently of a Cort guitar that was under $1,000. It was $799, I think, or $899, and it's called the Gold G6 or something. It's on my channel. You can see it. It was one of the reviews I did for Guitar World magazine. That is a really nice sounding guitar with a nice sounding pickup system that was, inexpensive. I thought it was well made and sounded really good. Cort kind of a not known as, they've been around forever since I was a kid. You remember there was, cheaper guitars they were made in Korea and stuff. But, unbeknownst to us when we were kids, they were making guitars for a lot of people, just at their factory. So they got a lot of experience making, and now I guess they're, maybe expanding a bit and trying to get out there more and have people play guitars with their name on them that are a bit more pro quality, but still really inexpensive. I think that's the thing. So this Cort guitar, I was quite impressed with. You could give it a listen. I'm a Takamine fan. I'm also a Taylor fan. Taylor has nice models that aren't too expensive. Taylor guitars to me are sort of like Sir. They're consistent. They're made in California, not too far apart, actually. They're forward thinking. They kind of try and fix a lot of the problems with traditional stuff, and so it's hard to go wrong with a Taylor. Having rented a lot of Taylors on the road doing different things and just having them show up, they're always good. They're sometimes exceptional. So, and I actually took a Taylor this week and used it on this television show thing that I did, and it was great. I had the capo up quite high, up to like the 6th fret or 7th fret, I think. And so you're almost getting into mandolin territory, and sometimes guitars can respond differently. And this one just sounded great. It was perfectly in tune, stayed in tune. I mean, just perfect for what I was doing, and sounded beautiful. It was kind of one of their new J45 style body shapes. And really a beautiful sounding guitar. And even, I was doing a thing there with Bob Clearmountain, the legendary Bob Clearmountain. He said that guitar sounds great. It sounds awesome. He just had like a single, I don't know if it was a Neumann or a 451 or something on the guitar, but he said it sounds really good. So, hey, if he likes it, it's good. So Taylor, kind of worth it. What else? And their pickup system sounds really nice, by the way. And it's so simple. I love that it's a volume, bass, and treble. That's it. There's nothing else to mess with. No notch filters or any other stuff on there. It's just 3 knobs. Couldn't be simpler. I like Martin too. I don't have as much experience with them, but I think there's some Martins in the lower end. Probably we're still talking probably $1,500 or $1,200. For I'm not sure what Martins start at, to be honest, but but out of those should be something you like, I would say. Floaters getting in the way of the screen. Those old eyes. I'm trying to see here. What else we got? I want to try the Sir Reactive Load. Can I use a budget interface, PreSonus audio box, or do I need to spend? No. PreSonus makes great interfaces. If you want to just get in, my first decent interface was a PreSonus, and this is 2000. When I got into computer recording, it's not like I got into recording in the early 2000s, but that's when I got finally a laptop and went, all right, I'm getting an M box and all the stuff. It was 2003, maybe 20 years ago. Before that, recording for me was strictly ADATs and and then analog before that. But my first computer proper interface was, I guess, the M box, and then quickly after that, I didn't really bond with Pro Tools and the M box, and I got rid of that and got a PreSonus and started working in Logic, and that worked great. And if you listen to, I did a lot of work on that. There's stuff that I did through that ended up on Guitar Nerd. Parts of the guitar parts on 10th Street. Early stuff that I recorded that I ended up making it on the album that came out like 6 years later, because I moved eventually to an Apogee interface. But the the how to play Eruption video, that was all done through that PreSonus interface, mic'd up. Any of those early videos I did in that little place I had my first YouTube videos, those were all done through the PreSonus. Good interface, great. One thing I remember about it in particular is that it had a really beefy headphone amp, a really powerful headphone amp that you could get, like, some of the other devices, like you turn them up and you got to get them up into the nether regions to get the, seems like the, like you wish it had more and came on faster on the, the headphone amp in the PreSonus was great. Okay, let's see. Stealth Parrot says he just got some Steve Vai picks, thinking of returning them because he still can't play like him. Yeah, Steve's a one of a kind, isn't he? He's amazing. John says the tune you did for the micro pitch was Total Balance Error riffage. I guess I'm way back in the chat. Yeah, that was, we were talking about sort of Van Halen tribute, and that was what I was going for, was that kind of sound, So I actually really like that. Like, I want to turn that into a song eventually and just go for it with like the pitch and the whole 9 yards and do kind of, that would be my kind of Van Halen theme thing, And Kurt played drums on that, right? Kurt Mascara, which he played some really cool stuff. Jethro's talking about that letter I wrote about the park tomorrow. You never mentioned that you actually spent time with Edward. I have a little bit. I don't like trying, I'm not like a name dropper or anything. But, he was very nice. Eddie, I knew him for the last 10 years before he passed away, I guess. And, we didn't get, I saw him mostly early on, like around 2009, 10, 11, 12. I saw him mostly back then. I spent some time with him then. And then, occasionally over the, the next 5 years, but we would still text a lot and stuff. And he was just really, really a sweet dude. It's like when you meet certain people, I mean, they might, I don't know if, I guess this might be with almost everybody, but there's the one guy that was like, you grew up listening to, and they were like, oh my God. And they were like a god to you, like up there on the stage and doing their thing. And it's amazing. And then there's the guy you meet, and it's like, definitely with him, there was always like an awareness, like, of course, that's the guy. But there's also, you forget when you're just hanging with him, you talk about things, and you're like, you don't have this, like, it's like, then you might go home later that night, you'll see a video, and it's that guy in 86 or whatever doing his thing. You're like, oh my God, it's like a different person or something, like this separate. It's not, but it is, So that was the thing with him always. And he was, he's kind of like a shy dude, and like really wears this, lets it all hang out. Like he just, there's almost like no filter with this when he trusts you, especially, and said things. And he was just really, I just really, I cherish that I got that experience. There's no doubt, to just a really good guy in my, people are complicated, but good guy. Okay. What else we got here? Plugins are getting so much better today, says Wilmer, using Amplitude and Mesa Boogie more than actual Mesas. Well, it's so easy, isn't it? And when you can get a great sound plugged in with a plugin and plugged in with a plugin and, get to the music quicker. That's the thing. I put up a Twitter post yesterday just as a response actually to an engineer's comment. Because this recording and mixing engineer, she was saying, a lot of bands these days make a big deal that they didn't use computers to record their album. She's like, you used computers to record your album, even if you don't think you did, which is true. And I just said, at the end of the day, nobody really cares how you did it. They just care whether or not they like the music. It doesn't really matter how it's recorded. Whether it's done all analog or whether it's done all on a laptop, or whether, I find it interesting, like when, the two extremes of like the Jack White wanting to do everything, or when a band will do it old school, like 50s, and go direct to, like just record like a live to 2-track or live to mono or something, that thing, versus the extreme, like somebody like Gautier, who made his big breakthrough record that had that song on it that was so huge. What was it called? Somebody that I used to know, or whatever, that song, whatever it's called. That guy did that all on his laptop and in like his parents' barn or something. I find that really interesting too. Todd Rundgren doing an album, I believe it was called Arena, all on a laptop, and he wanted it to sound like arena rock, but he was sort of limited himself to the laptop and doing it that way. I like those experiments and stuff. I don't know that the listener that's non-musicians though, I don't think they really care like how you did it that much, you know. I guess my crowd, you guys, you know, will care how I did things because you like geeks like me and you want to know about tones and stuff. But you know, it's at the end of the day, what's the coolest thing is like that the songs, the melodies, the licks, and you know, that's like, yeah, that was awesome. Doesn't really matter how we did it that much, right? And that's whether or not the music resonates. So that's the most important thing, not to get too caught up in the tech, you know. That's not what we're here for right now, though, is it? We're here for the tech. So let's talk about it. Or the music, whichever you want. Let's see. This is a great question or comment. If I can pick up CB radio waves on my fuzz, can truckers hear me playing guitar? Let's hope so, right? Yeah. I heard this guy on the radio today, on the CB radio. He was amazing. Shredding. Okay. What else we got here? Steven says he saw Dirty Honey on Friday. I saw those guys a bit ago with Wolf Van Halen with Mammoth. And yeah, it was fun. I thought they were pretty cool. You know, fun rock and roll for sure. I want those bands to just, you know, I make this critique sometimes, but I want them to do not the obvious thing and, you know, do their Rain song or something, as opposed to just the kind of like G's and C's and D's and rock and roll, you know. I love that too. But, you know, I want them, if they're going to do Led Zeppelin or 70s, you know, do some of the weird stuff the bands did in the 70s. That's all. That's my only, yeah, because their singer was killer too. He was really great. Dirty Honey singer. But, you know, yeah, I've talked about it before. I don't want to, you know, repeat myself over and over again, but you guys know what I'm talking about. There's Jesse Johnson. Hey, thanks, man, for the super chat. I do appreciate it. I do. Let's see. Hired to play the anthem for an event. Which one? Canadian national anthem? Club owner wants me to incorporate Eruption, either on the front or back. I am good on gear. What would Pete do, other than swagger and feel? How would you do that? I guess you'd have to... you know what I would probably do? I would probably do the anthem almost verbatim, but somewhere towards... maybe... and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, you know, and then maybe, you know, and then go into the tapping part of Eruption right there, you know, with the descending part, just do it, gay through, da, da, da. Go back in. That's probably what I would do. I would just quote a little bit of it right in the, you know, and make it kind of seamless and like you did it off the cuff. If you can rehearse it and do it, but make it seem kind of like you just went into it, that'd be pretty cool. I'm your producer. Sup Pete says silverback orangutan. I like that. How you doing? Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. John's up there with the super chat. He says Freyette's show last night was an education on all things tubes, well worth the 3-hour watch. I haven't seen his show yet. I'll watch. Yeah, I'll do that. I know him a little bit, so I'll watch his show. Mammoth was nominated for a Grammy tonight. Is the Grammys on tonight? It is, right? What do I know? You know, I'm not a part of it. I know people that are going, but I'm not going. I'm not up for a Grammy. Yeah. Chris is up for a Grammy, I do believe, for his version of the Sinead O'Connor song. So I suppose I should watch. Right? Is it on tonight? Is the Grammys on tonight? Is that what's going on? I knew it was like, I don't know if it was yesterday or today or what. It's in Vegas. It's all kind of different this year. So do you have new products coming out? Sort of. Yeah. I mean, yes, actually, for sure. I'm thinking about different things. I do. All kinds of stuff, actually. Sort of went to a ton. Not a ton, but a few different things. Some things that I'm very excited about. all things that I'm very excited about, but some things I'm excited about in particular. What else we got here? Let's see. Steven says, yes, I agree. Need to do more in-depth tunes, but the tones. Yeah, I mean, they're all like Marshall. It looks like Marshall Ampeg kind of, you know. Have you tried the Amped by MI Sound Lab? I have not. What is that, a plugin? Aren't they a plugin company? I haven't checked it out yet. Fill me in. Tell me. Have you seen the Why Not Rush copy music? I have not. Is there a band doing like a tribute? Is it a Rush tribute thing? I haven't seen that. Is it cool? You guys telling me about all this stuff I don't know about. Well, I should open up Windows here so I can look later and be, let's look. Amped MI Sound Lab. We'll open up a window for that and I can look at it later. Amp Sims and IRs. Amped roots free amp sim. It's an amp sim. I haven't tried that. I see. Looks kind of like a 5150 sort of situation. They good? They sound good? You like it? And what's this other one? Why not? Why not Rush? Look at later. Hey guys, I saw a great band this week. Oh, I see. It's a cover band. Okay, I'm gonna check that out later. Saw a great band this week. They're called July Talk, and they're from Canada. Co-lead singers, girl and a guy. The guy's from my hometown, from Edmonton. It's cool. What a great band. It's really, really great songs. He kind of sings like, he sounds like a little like Tom Waits at times, but they're rock, you know. They're not rock. They're, what are they? They're like a alternative, you know, but, you know, they did, like, sometimes they just do like, you know, piano and two vocal, and it's beautiful music. It's great. And they rock too. Everything from, they run the gamut. Check it out. July Talk. Great Canadian band. I think they've been around about 10 years. Really enjoyed it. Anybody out there know that band? So good, man. So good. I saw them live at the Echo this week. It was cool. John Funk in the super chat there with the super chat. If you wanted to add a bass looper with guitar, what effect pedal would you use? H9, M5. H9 has a looper, right? I never use it. The M5, I would use the looper in the Helix is exceptional. So it's a little bit more, there's more you can do with it. The M9 had a good looper. I'm sure the M5 is cool too, just not quite as many features. Or, you know, the one I use all the time is the Ditto, but it's like less features. Roland loopers are great. I mean, they've kind of got it down. There's so many that you could, it depends how many, you know, do you need half speed? Do you need reverse? Do you need, you know, with the different, you want to layer different loops because then you get into the Roland loopers that allow you to do more stuff? Or is it just one loop that you need to make, you know, at which point you can use one of the mini ones? Or, you know, the Pigtronics has a nice one. Keeley, I did a video on a Keeley one. I did a video on, I can't remember all the, I've done at least 3 or 4 looper videos. So anyways, just depends. But can you check back in the chat from my second super chat, says Modern Vintage. It was missed earlier. I can and I will. But maybe you can, it's difficult for me to find because then I go way back here and it won't show me. But Modern Vintage. Okay, I'll take a look. Also, just to ask the question at the bottom again, if you don't mind. Sorry, it's my fault. I get off on tangents and then I miss things. I know. I'm just not. Oh, wait. There we go. No, not seeing it. See, this is what happens. I end up doing this. Ah, there you are, bud. Sorry about that. Okay. How do you go digital out from Max Effects Kemper SPDIF? SPDIF. Sony Philips digital interface. Did you know that? That's why you come here. Right? I don't know much, but I know that. I didn't go to college, but I can tell you what SPDIF means. To ADAT on the Apollo X racks. This is a little above my pay grade, unfortunately. Made a big deal that I know what that means, but so SPDIF to ADAT on the Apollo X racks. You go into the X8P line XLR from your modelers. It's not really that. Let's see. Isn't it bad to go line out versus SPDIF due to extra conversion? You know what? I do it all the time because I don't want to be bothered. I used the digital out on the aux. That was the one thing that I did do, but then I started having a problem with it, and then I just went analog and I never looked back. So I've got the cables plugged out of the aux, just analog now. I don't really think you're going to notice a difference for guitar sound or the 1.2 milliseconds of latency you're going to get from the extra conversion. And it's just a kind of a pain in the ass running digital. I find often, maybe your mileage may vary, maybe not, maybe just set it up, but you're always trying to find the, for me, it's like finding the digital input. I'm not as smart as you might think I am. Finding the digital input in my Apollo mixer, it always shows up on like 9 and 10, I think, and then it worked for a while with the aux. And then one day I was trying to track and it just didn't work. I couldn't get it to work, And I was like tearing my hair out for an hour. I just plugged it in analog, and it's been that way ever since. I never tried to fix it or anything like that. So, long story short, I think the Axe Effects is pretty easy to plug in. I mean, it's USB, right? Is the Kemper Spiff too, or can't you just plug those in USB? I've got one right here. Let me look at the back. Don't remember. Let's see. What do we got on the back of a Kemper? USB. Right, Spiff. So yeah, you would just, you need the conversion, like whatever cable to get into the ADAT input, and it should just automatically convert. Sometimes you need a box to, plug the, Spiff looks like an RCA kind of port, right? And then you need a box to go from that, or a certain kind of cable. It's a good resource for that is Amazon. I went to Fry's once looking for a toss link to Spiff, and I couldn't find one in an electronics store. It just was a drag. Get on Amazon and boom, there it was. I just found it in like 5 minutes. So go in there and order the right cable. And then if you need to get with UA on like any kind of, if you have a problem, they've got great customer service. You get on and a guy will help you walk you through it, how to set it up where it shows up in the mixer and stuff. And it should just work, And once you get it set, it'll be set. I'm just kind of lazy. I don't know about you guys, but like sometimes I'm lazy with that stuff. And I'm like, well, the analog out is right there and I know it's going to work. So let's just do it. Honestly, I don't obsess over, like it's one extra stage of conversion, whatever, just do it and get the part. It's more important that I play something cool, honestly, okay. I'm moving down to the bottom of the chat. Here's a few super chats. Well, you guys should do super chats. I appreciate it. You're helping me out here. I got to buy some more Verturo capsules for my Nespresso machine, so this will be helpful. Fire me up. What do we got here? What provides your rhythm section on the gear videos? I program. Do you hand program or go with presets? It's combination, but mainly I use Superior Drummer 3 a lot. And Superior Drummer 3, I've downloaded a ton of extra drum MIDI packs and as well as sound packages. And so drum kits as well as MIDI grooves. And wow, Matt Beckley's there, and he sent me Matt Beckley. He's a good buddy of mine. I'll buy you an old fashioned later. Sorry, he's in another super chat there. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so Superior Drummer. So anyways, long story short, I've got thousands of MIDI grooves in there in Superior Drummer, and when I start writing a thing, I'll go into Superior and pull it up, and there's this thing called Tap to Find. And it's under the Groove tab. So you go to the Groove tab. It gives you a whole bunch of groove styles, different time signatures, whatever you want. And then you push Tap to Find, and it'll pull up drum kit, and you just tap on the mouse, the kick drum pattern you want, the snare you want, if there's a ride, hi-hat pattern, approximately a groove that this is kind of what I need. And it spits out a whole bunch of grooves then in the Groove browser section. And you can go through and listen to them all, audition them. And you're like, yeah, that one's close to what I want. You take that and you drag it into a thing called the Song Creator. Now it gives you intros, verses, choruses, bridges, fills, outros, tons of grooves in with that. Kind of like, okay, well, if that's your verse groove or whatever, or that's your chorus groove, here's some ideas for, and then I kind of work with that. And I'm like, oh, and it might alter how my writing goes. Because usually I'll start with a riff or an idea. And I'll be like, okay, let's get a drum thing going. This is kind of what I need, for the first verse or for the intro, the song or whatever. I'll put it in, find that groove, bring it into the Song Creator, got my groove that I started with or whatever that's close to it. I kind of might alter the riff a little bit to even fit that. And then I'll hear, okay, let's see what the choruses are like. Maybe they're totally wrong and not what I want. Or maybe they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. So change the kick drum pattern up like this in the chorus. So here's where I'll go with the riff. and then it affects my writing from there. Does that make sense? So kind of like I find it a very, as far as programming, not working with a real drummer, I find it a very kind of organic, comfortable way to work and write and come up with the things I come up with. And I can put together a drum track that way quite quickly using Superior Drummer. Now, Easy Drummer is another tune track. It's like Superior Drummer Lite, and it's great too. And I still use it sometimes. Basically the same. So if you want to check this out, maybe just download Easy Drummer. Get that. It's not expensive, I don't think, and start with that, and you'll see what I mean. And if the workflow just worked great for me. So yeah, it's really nice. Matt, thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. Just helping you keep the caffeine flowing and the rock and rolling. Thanks, Arthur. I appreciate it. I do. I gotta keep the caffeine flowing right now. Delicious. Wow, 1:15 already. Well, we got another half hour or a little more to go here, at least. So let's keep going. What else? Let's see. Speaking of Tom Waits, reminds me of something Joey Diaz said about him on his podcast. Pick one Tom Waits song. Just pick a song that sounds. Oh, I'm not going to say that on my show. I love Tom Waits. Actually got starstruck. I saw him in Pasadena once. This was in the 90s. I was walking around in Pasadena, and he was crossing Fair Oaks, he was crossing Colorado, and with a girl, and he looked great. He was looked like he was on his way somewhere. He had a hat on, and he was all dressed up, and he was smiling, and she was on his arm, and they were crossing. I'm like, that's freaking Tom Waits. That's cool. Just cool. Christian, thanks for sharing all this info and experience. We appreciate you. Thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for the super chat. It's fun to be here. Have you tried the Headrush Looper? You know what? I haven't really. It looks like the be-all, end-all looper, and it is a little intimidating to me because I'm not really a looping guy. I've mentioned that before. Like simple loopers, I get, and that's cool. It is like it's wild, that thing, the amount of inputs and how you can run different things into it. And it's just like, and it was one of those things that I actually, not because it's not good, but because it was maybe one of the only things where they did ask me to make a video for it. And I kind of declined to do it because I was intimidated by it. I thought, this is going to take me a long time to learn how to do this. And it's not really, I get anxiety about loopers. I don't know about you guys, but like you see people that are really good at it, and they've been doing it for years, and it's their thing. And it's not really my thing. It's just like one thing that I don't know if I want to tackle. Like, I don't think that that's my bag. It's just, because if I can't do it really good, then I don't want to make a video for it and be so, you know what I mean? Like the videos I make and the things I do, I'm good at. I know that, like the styles and the way that I approach things. I do what I'm, I play to my strengths or whatever, and I do what I can do. Looping, that's not my thing. There's people out there that are incredible at it. That I've seen make videos for demos for loopers and stuff, and they're really good at it, or they just use it in their own music, and that it's just not me. So the Headrush was like, oh my God, this is like, you might as well have sent me like the latest keyboard, the latest sampler, the latest, something that's just not really, send me a quad Cortex, I can do that, no problem, or a great plugin, or, tube guitar amp, or even a complicated effects pedal. But a looper, whoa. I need to practice for like 3 months and get it. And I just, maybe it's just at the core, I just don't really want to, Matt says loopers are great when you can't find anyone that wants to play with you. Yeah, I mean, and the one in the Helix, like actually, contradicting myself a little bit. Like I did a preset for the Helix 3.0 update a while ago. And I've made a couple presets like this for the Helix where there's 2 different amp sounds with a little bit of different effects on each sound, and there's a looper in the chain. And the idea is one of them's optimized for a rhythm thing, and the other one's optimized for a lead thing. And to make a cool loop, and then just hit the A/B switch, and you go over to the other rig, and you start soloing over top of it with a different sound. So I did one that's kind of sort of a blues, sort of, like a rootsy kind of clean Fendery rhythm thing, and then with a gainier, like sort of bit of Dumble overdrive kind of thing going on, different effects on each sound. And that's included in the 3.0, it was a long time ago now, it was at least a year ago, maybe more, but the Helix update. I did another one a while ago that was more like an ambient kind of clean thing, and then with a real gainy lead guitar thing that you can do on top. for specifically to be used with the looper to play a thing, you know, because the Line 6 looper makes a lot of sense to me. The Helix looper, it's really, you know, well designed, the way you can integrate it in patches in the Helix. That I get, you know, and it's really cool. When we're talking about this Headrush looper, I mean, it's like, it looks to be the greatest looper of all time. I think there's multiple inputs with different XLR inputs. You can plug multiple microphones into it and 1/4 inch ins, and there's, you know, a ton of effects and different things in there, but it's like a whole thing. Like it's like a looper motherboard, you know. It's not just like, oh, an effect that's within one of these modelers or something that you can figure out in a few minutes. The one in the Quad Cortex, I haven't messed with that either yet, but I saw Rabia do some really interesting things with it, where he incorporated like pitch shifting, and so he could do a thing where he could change the, I think it was the looper. Oh no, maybe it was just that he did an ambient bed. No, yeah, I think it was the looper, and incorporated with a pitch shifter, so you can create like a chord, loop it, and then he has the different buttons. Do you guys see this video he did, Rabia? You can hit the different buttons on the Quad Cortex to pitch shift the chord. So you make the loop, then you pitch shift the loop, and then you can play on top of it and kind of on the fly do different chord progressions. Really beautiful what he did, and I thought that's a cool. I could get into that, you know, a unique way to use it. What else we got here? I own a CAA PT100 and the amp seems to run really, really, really hot. Is that normal? Kinda. It's like a Fender, really. Like if you, because what happens is it's fine. Mine do that too, quite hot. The heat drifts up from the tubes and the chassis and stuff. It's one of the things about a Marshall design where, you know, it's kind of cool having the tubes up, the chassis down on the bottom, and the tubes going up, because the heat can kind of drift up and just into the head shell. With the PT100 or any Fender, or, you know, a lot of different amps, some Soldanos that were designed, you know, with the tubes up, the tubes down design. Sorry, the head is at the top of the chassis, the tubes face down, and any heat they generate kind of goes up into the chassis, and then the panels can become quite hot and stuff. I've never had a problem or any kind of failure or anything related to heat, you know, and you know, so always, I mean, it was kind of designed for it, so it's cool. It is normal, and you don't need to worry about it. Yep. Okay, let's see about the MX. Oh yeah, I did a video for the Mxr Looper. Love the clarity and the form factor. Yeah, it was really well done. I love Mxr pedals in general. They, you know, Mxr is a cool company. They're just cool. They just make cool stuff, and, you know, pedals that guitar players want and like, and just with the right amount of stuff on them. You know, some are really simple. So, yeah. Okay, what else? You guys are talking about Roger Daltrey sounds better older, like better than he did in the. He sounds great right now, that's for sure. You know, it's funny. He Roger Daltrey had I know he had a voice operation sometime, maybe 2011, 2012, sometime in there. And wow, it was like, because I saw him in the like 2009, maybe 10, something like that. And he was really cool, but you could tell he was like struggling a bit more, you know, and, you know, just having some issues. And then he went to, I think it was, I hope I'm not misquoting, but I think it was some guy in Canada, a doctor, a surgeon. And he had something done. Wow. Like just killing it still, you know, and he's like 80 or something almost, isn't he? He's not quite 80, I don't think, but I mean, he's getting there. And he sounds great. I really like Roger Daltrey. You know, seems like a great guy. My good friends play, you know, in his solo band and also in the Who, John Button, Lauren Gold, and they you know, what a great gig, like working with him and playing all that great music. And he just seems like a cool dude, kind of, because he's kind of salt of the earth, you know. He was like a working dude or whatever, and you know, pretty cool. So, what's my opinion of the 6100 Marshall 3-channel? It's a little bit of a nightmare to work on. I know that. Speaking of hot, they're supposed to get really hot, and they kind of have problems, you know, with the, I think there's MIDI on them, and there's a lot of like techs go, oh God, like bring that amp up to somebody like Dave, and, you know, but cool in, you know, in theory, you know, there's the concept of it. was kind of neat. Like the first, I think it might have been one of the first 3-channel amps ever, channel switching, you know. And I always wanted one when they first came out. Remember, they were purple, you know. Pretty neat. And, you know, with a kind of a true clean channel that was different from Marshall, I think. But yeah, man, I think that the maintenance fears would, you know, I would be worried about that. About it, you know, I've just heard bad things about the design and stuff. There's a super chat there I got to grab. Stealth Parrot says he has way more latency than his equipment. Yeah. Getting a little bit of commiserating here on the digital input. Horse says, I hate to look for the digital input. Yeah, where it is on the, you know, every one of these interfaces will have a mixer that goes with it. And there's always some confusion surrounding that mixer. And what, say, especially if you're just getting into it, why do I need another mixer? What does this even do? I've already got Pro Tools, right? And it's just to control kind of the inputs and the routing and all that of the device, you know, that you're using to get audio into the computer. But it's always, well, not always, but it can be confusing to figure out how to kind of configure it. And I find, I mean, it's not really, you know, it's, you know, many times I'll just plug the units in, you know, using the analog outs, the modelers. Fry's is gone now. That's right. Fry's is gone. Fry's is not an electronic store anymore. And the reason is because of situations like I described earlier. It's just kind of, you can, you know, certain things, it doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, there's still great electronic stores. And I love like Pacific Radio in LA, Amatron. I hope those never go away. They're awesome. Fry's was a little bit of, I mean, if you were ever there was more than one, right? I mean, it was just, I only went to the one. So I knew the one in LA by Burbank Airport. And you'd go in there and it was like insane. It was just like this aircraft hangar of stuff. And like trying to find the thing you needed could be difficult, and trying to get somebody to help you and all that. And to be honest, it's just like, you know, the you know, physical brick and mortar retail. I mean, electronic stuff, if you can go online, type it in and Google search, and then it pops up and you're like, that's the thing I need, and you can get it tomorrow to your doorstep. It just kind of makes sense. It's easier to just order things that way when it comes to, you know, the brick and mortar thing. I don't, you know, brick and mortar makes sense for guitars to me, because it's like, you want to go in and play the guitar and try it, you know. So it's even televisions, you want to go in and see it. And, you know, I don't know if I want to order this one or this one because I can't see it. You want to go in and look at the screen. And so going to the electronics, you know, to Best Buy or to Target or whatever, and you're looking for a TV, kind of makes sense. But like certain things, you know, and Fry's is one of those where it was just like, they sold TVs and stuff too, but they sold a hell of a lot of, you know, hard drives and parts and cables and things. That it's easy to order that stuff online because it's easy to find it, track it down, push send it to me. I have the looper. It's the octave bass tone I'm going to use in the looper. Reference my last super chat. Huh? Sorry, John. Let me see if I can find. Did you have another? I've got other super chats to get to here too, and I'm going to do them all. I promise I'm not going to screw up. I'm not going to screw up. Keep me honest, folks. There we go. If you wanted to add a bass loop on a looper with a guitar, what effect pedal would you use? If you wanted to add a bass loop on a looper with guitar, oh, what effect pedal would you use? I see. So you want to kind of transpose your guitar. Well, there's many you can. I get it. What you were asking. Yeah, you could use an H9 or an M5 and just use the pitch shifter and transpose an octave down. I understand what you're saying now. Sorry, John. There's many different ways you can do it, but each an M5 or an H9 both have a pitch shifter. You'll just set it to straight up, you know, set it to an octave down, basically, one voice, you know, and you're going to get what you want. You know, you could use either of those. The H9 is probably the, you know, superior. I mean, it's the eventide pitch shifting, but the M5 has a decent, you know, the line 6 pitch shifter works too, and you're going to be able to get what you want with that. You don't need any kind of like polyphony pitch shifting or any kind of, you know, it just needs to be the straight up pitch shifter, 12 semitones down, octave down, set 100% for 100% effect. Okay. Did I get all these super chats? I'm moving down and looking for the different ones here. One sec. That rhythms was well worth the money. Thanks, and forced me to spell rhythm. What was that? Was that my answer about the national anthem? Can't remember. Thank you very much, sir. I do appreciate it. The Line 6 Looper modeler is fun, has a bunch of backing tracks built in. See, I haven't explored that at all. I haven't done that. I should. Okay. Got these other super chats to get to. Oh, it's just KC there. He didn't ask question. He was just sending me coffee money. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Thank you. Sammy Hagar at 74 sounds amazing. You know, a lot of it's just attitude. He's got the right attitude. He obviously has a lot of fun. He seems to have a good time in his life, and I think that's kind of what it's, you know, big part of what it's all about. Got to admire that. Those guys have a good time. I mean, it seems like Sammy and Mike and the gigs they go play and stuff, they're about having a good time and having the audience have a good time. They make a little money. Everybody goes home happy. What's wrong with that? The world needs it. The world's messed up these days, so well, good time music. Thanks for a great show. Thank you, Slaphand. Appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see. Have you tried the neural plugin John Petrucci archetype or Fortin? I've tried the Fortin. I haven't tried the John Petrucci, which I would love to try. I've tried a lot of their plugins. The Gojira one I love. You know, that new Tone King one is great because it gives them a middle ground of some mid-gain stuff. Because they have the Corey Wong one, which is really good for cleaner stuff and some lead stuff. And then, you know, all the way to the heavy stuff, but not a lot in the middle maybe. And so the Tone King, I mean, it sounds amazing for like great combo, rootsy, semi-clean or semi-overdriven. It's very nice. The Petrucci one I haven't tried yet, but I do want to try. Do really want to try. I bet it's just great. There's that new, anybody try that new Line 6, what's it called? Metallurgy or something? I have a download thing for that and I need to download it, but I just haven't had time to try that. So I'd like to give that a try. Yeah. What else we got here? The Burbank one was attacked by aliens, talking about fries. That's true. There was the spaceship that had crashed into the front. Those that don't know, there's it was like this massive warehouse electronics store, and it had a spaceship thing that it looks like it crashed into the front. It was like half the spaceship sticking out of the building. It's very cool. Fries was kind of odd. Yeah, it was odd. All the weird like that, right from the, you know, as you're going, like, okay. I liked it in a way because it was so weird, but it's like very strange, but cool. Greetings from Croatia. What's up over there? How you doing? Say hi to my friend Yogi Lanic. He's over there somewhere. My partner in crime on guitar in the Chris Cornell band. Seems like he's having a good time over there. Yeah. Will you be at NAMM this year? Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna go check it out. I don't know if it's what it's gonna be like, but I'll go poke my head in there, at least for a day, see what's going on. If it's fun, maybe I'll go back the next day. What about Larave? That's a Canadian guitar company that makes very nice guitars. I have one. I have one right here, an acoustic. It's just outside. I don't play it very much, but it's a great guitar. I needed a good guitar for recording that was kind of, you know, dreadnought, spruce top, the classic kind of thing. And I didn't have a lot of money at the time. And I had a Gibson. This is a big regret of mine. I never should have done it, but I had a Gibson J50, a 1959 Gibson J50, a beautiful acoustic guitar, natural top, like a J45, but natural top. And I traded it for this Larave and a Taylor. I think I sold it and maybe got money for it, or did I trade it? I don't remember. But anyway, I got this Larave and I got a Taylor Basic 314 or something for that J45. Better tools for me at the time. I needed a guitar. I was starting to do television and stuff with artists, and I didn't have a great acoustic guitar, and I needed a guitar I could plug in. So the Taylor worked well for that. And the Larave was like my nice recording guitar to kind of replace the, you know, although it didn't sound the same, it sounded good, really good. It was more like a D18 or something, or and worked well. But I really missed that Gibson. You know, I wish there was another way I could have come up with it. Professionally, I needed to do that at the time. I just didn't have the money to buy, you know, the kind of guitar I had to sell the one to get the other ones, you know, and that's something lots of folks have to do, right, at times in their life, and that's what I had to do at that point. But I do miss that J50. They're still somewhat affordable. You know, it's like electric guitars, well, they can be in the stratosphere as far as prices go. You can get 50s Gibsons and stuff for more like what you would pay for a modern boutique acoustic, I feel like. Still, like, you know, a nice J45 or J50 is an exceptional thing. And arguably, you know, you might even hear more of a difference in the tone than maybe with an electric guitar that's vintage. You know what I mean? Like a vintage acoustic. If those out there that have played them, if you know what I'm talking about, an old D28, a beautiful D45, or, you know, like a good one, you know, that you just find, a beautiful J50, J45, country western, you play it and you go like, ooh, whoa, like one chord, and it just has this bloom to it, and you're like, wow, there's your, you know, old wood sound and all that right there. You know, electric guitars don't do that to that degree, not even 59 Les Pauls and stuff compared to new ones, you know, but an acoustic, they just sound like a cannon or something all of a sudden. Or like, you know, the low end on a beautiful J45 or J50 is just wah. You hit the low E string and it goes wah. I don't know how else to describe it. I've got a good low voice for this thing. Wah. You know, it just blooms. And it's like, God, I haven't heard too many acoustics do that. You know, you can literally, hanging on the wall in a store, sometimes I'll just go up and hit the low E string, you know, a good acoustic, and hear if it does that thing. Don't even have to pick the guitar up. I don't play that much acoustic, so it's funny, but I do have a real appreciation for a great vintage acoustic. Because, you know, what could be simpler, right? Like sitting on the couch playing, you know, one guitar, no pedals, no cables, no amps, no nothing. You just, if you've got a guitar that sounds like that, it's pretty inspiring. So, you know, anyways, blah, blah, blah. What is the silliest pedal out there? Anything more ridiculous than the Korg Miku? I don't think so. Anybody see the Miku? I kind of want one. Watch Ola's videos with the Miku. Those are pretty great. If you haven't, just for those that don't know what it is, don't leave now. Stay here. But when I leave in 20 minutes, 15 minutes, go watch Ola's Miku videos and you'll get a good laugh. Do you think the Helix floor is strong enough for touring? Generally speaking, reliable. So they're built quite well. I mean, it's in a metal structure. The expression pedal seems like it's really well built and stuff like that. You know, I would be remiss if I didn't say, since you're asking me, that I haven't had any problems. You know, I have had a couple problems. I had one brick on me once. They replaced it, but it was during a software update and it just bricked on me. So these things happen sometimes with these devices. I don't know if anybody else there has had any kind of similar experiences. They seem to have streamlined their, you know, it used to be where they would want you to make a backup before you updated the firmware to a new version and stuff, and then you had to reinstall and do all this stuff. Now it seems to be much more streamlined. So I would say my guess is you're probably pretty safe with that kind of stuff now. But you just never know with these. They're computers, you know. It's a computer at the end of the day. So, you know, I had a computer go bad this week. My laptop, mentioning earlier, I had to get a new laptop because I think the motherboard's gone on my laptop. And these things happen, you know, on these devices. So I would recommend getting a great case for it. There's a Gator that's pretty nice that I've shown before. I think that's a kind of like looks like a little roller suitcase that is made for the Helix that you can drop it into. I would recommend, you know, just getting something and maybe even going to a company and having it foamed out and just really make it extra careful, soft on that thing, or carry it in a backpack. They make a Helix backpack, you know, get one and carry it on the plane. So, you know, I would recommend getting something like that. And, you know, just treat it gingerly and stuff. And, you know, it's good to have a backup too, no matter what. Have a one pedal, you know, whether that becomes a Helix Stomp or whether it's something even simpler, just a 2-channel, you know, something like that Amp Academy thing that I showed the other day. If you're going to fly with the Helix. You know, maybe you want one of these for your backup, just something small that's an AB, clean, dirty sound, so you can get through the gig if you have an issue. It's no different than a tube amp at the end of the day. I mean, I'm a fan of having a backup no matter what. So, that's what I would recommend. What are the PS Vane 12AX7s you tried on the PT15? Were they TAD branded? No. Would like to pick up a set for my PT15IR killer amp. Thank you. So you can find them on different websites. TAD doesn't sell them right now for some reason, but I think they're supposed to at some point soon. I can't really say yet where I got mine from, but they are out there to find. I just can't tell you the particular place because it's just something that is still under wraps a little bit. But it's anyway. PS Vane is making 12AX7s, and they have for a long time. And you can actually find them, you know, on hi-fi sites and stuff like that. And they'll be a bit more expensive, but damn, do they sound good? And I'm pretty sure, like, pretty quick here. I mean, I'm sure within a month or two, this will all be, you know, I say I'll be able to tell you where the ones I tried came from and stuff like that. So it's all happening. Apri wants me to say his name. Apri. I'm not going to say your second name in case you're messing with me, because I'm probably going to say something that I don't want to say on my show. Are you messing with me? I'm not going to put any more thought into it, but there you go. What happened to hardware drum machines? They still exist. I mean, there's still the Akai, what's the Akai, the original MPC. It's just become quite a bit more sophisticated now, and it's basically a full-blown integrate with your DAW studio box. Look up Akai MPC. A lot of producers like them, I think, and stuff. I remember John Mayer actually telling me that he uses one on a lot of sessions because it integrates into the way modern pop and hip hop and stuff, R&B producers work a lot. And he'll go to do sessions. He's like, about the furthest thing away from what they're doing is miking guitar amps. They don't really want to know about that. This thing, I can go in and plug in, you know, play a guitar part. You can affect it in a ton of different ways with modelers and effects and stuff, loop it, truncate it, do whatever you want. It kind of fits into the way. So he was into that, and I found that really interesting. Look it up, like the newest Akai MPC style machine. They haven't gone away. They've just evolved, and now they're, you know, they're just different, you know. So, yeah. Horse says, have you ever played Ed's Small Les Paul? No, I have not. That guitar is cool. A couple times when I was up there, I saw different, like, I didn't play. I should have just asked, like, do you mind if I check it out? But I never did. He showed me the Ripley guitar once. That was my biggest memory of it. I was like, holy shit, this is the Top Jimmy guitar. But, you know, he's like, yeah, you know, pulled it out, showed me, because it's a long story, but, you know, he had used it on this thing that we were doing, and it was that he'd plugged it into, I think, 2 Watkins Dominator style amps, and then mic'd it in stereo, because you can pan with the pan pots on the Ripley guitar. It's got the Ripley guitar had a separate, for those that don't know, listen to Top Jimmy, you'll hear the guitar part, and you'll hear it. It's on 1984. For those that don't know, you'll hear the guitar bouncing around on headphones. Listen in headphones, you'll hear it bouncing around. Each string is panned in a different direction because it had a Bartolini pickup in it, and it had 6 outputs, and one output. It's like a pickup for each string, essentially, with an individual pan pot for each string. So you can plug into an amp, 2 amplifiers, and each string will be coming out a different amp. It's the coolest thing, and it's like one of the things, you know, that he did that not a lot of people even talk about it, and it was really neat and sounded great on that tune. So that was the one kind of, you know, not the Frankenstein, not a Destroyer, not those guitars, but the offbeat guitars that he used sometimes, like you're mentioning the little Les Paul from, you know, little guitars, and the Ripley. He stuck it right in front of my face one day. I was like, that's amazing, you know. And then I remember he had a black Kramer one that he was on the cover of Guitar for the Practical Musician magazine. He had that black Kramer with the Bartolini pickup and the Floyd. It looked so cool. It was like a straight up Kramer Beretta, but with the Ripley, you know, in it. And I wonder if he ever used that on anything. It was around 85. Kind of cool. What a nerd I am. Geek. Hardcore. Any advice on a pedal platform app, says Merkava up there in the super chat situation, for small indoor gigs rehearsing without a mic? Sir Bella, but a little pricey. So yeah, the Bella is my #1 recommendation with its 3-position bright switch, and it just works great with pedals. It's a really good, neutral, beautiful sounding amp. But if that is sort of cost prohibitive, I would recommend probably one of the Fender 68 Princeton or Deluxe Reverb amps. They're no bright cap. They work well with pedals because of that. Just a good sounding solid combo amp. So the 68 silver face Deluxe or Princeton, depending on how much power you need. I have one of the little Princetons sitting here. It's cool. And the Deluxe is, you know, bigger speaker. It's a 12 instead of a 10, and double the power, you know, just about. Not quite, but almost. Jack says, any chance Yogi would be a guest on the show? I would like that, actually. I'd love to have Yogi on. We could reminisce, tell a lot of stories about the old days. That's a good idea. Yogi, my guitar partner on the Chris Cornell tours that we did together. That's a good question. I got super chats to do here too, but what is your preference regarding amps and guitars? Do you have any that you never let go of? Well, I still have my Jackson from 86 or 7, you know, that when I was a kid. So I'll never sell that because it's got sentimental value. I don't really get rid of much these days, man. Just because I don't know. You always regret it when you sell things, you know? So there's some that I just love, you know? 335 and stuff, and my Red Sir signature model has kind of become my main, you know, like my main favorite signature, and that I have out of all the ones I have. But they're all pretty darn similar. My silver, the new silver one, I just love too. So I use that a lot all the time. Who out of all your idols, guitarists or not, have you met in person? Almost all of them, to be honest. You name it, I think I've met them. That's the truth. Just over the time being in LA, like 30 plus years. And everybody's, you know, they say don't meet your heroes, and most of the time everybody's really cool. So I've only met one Beatle, and he was very nice. It was Ringo. I came very close to meeting Paul once, but it didn't happen. And George was still alive, actually, when I met Ringo, and he was maybe supposed to. I played a gig, and Ringo was there. I used to play with his stepdaughter in a band. One of the many things that folks don't know, because it's just trivia from the 90s. But in the 90s, I was in a band with her. Her name was Francesca Gregorini, and she's Barbara Bach's daughter. So she was Ringo's stepdaughter. And we had a band and used to play together. And so one night we played at a club, now gone, long gone, called the Opium Den in LA. And Ringo came, and Francesca was like, yeah, I think George is going to come too. And I thought, are we going to have 2 Beatles here tonight at our gig? Like, I don't know how to deal with that, because I was just such a Beatles fan. And anyway, Ringo didn't come, but Jeff Lynne came. So it was Jeff Lynne and Ringo sitting in the booth with Barbara, you know, who everybody had a crush on from the time she was in, if you were my age, in, what was the movie called? Caveman. That's where Ringo and Barbara met, on the set of Caveman. Lana, Ool. Who knows what I'm talking about? Who knows what I'm talking about? You're my age then. Yeah. So, if your MacBook is out of warranty, thank you for the super chat, Christopher. Check out Louis Rossman's YouTube channel first and send it to his shop. I trust him more than the Genius Bar. Good advice. Okay. I mean, I think my MacBook is, I'm going to take that name and just took a picture so that I remember. I think my MacBook is probably either a screen issue or a motherboard, and either of them is going to be $600, $700, $800, something like that. And I need a computer that works now. So I just went and bought one because it was time to you know, I don't have an option. I got to get work done on a laptop. I need to go excuse me, I'm burping. I need to go somewhere and travel with it, and then I need it now. And there's just those times where it's like, you know, you can't mess around. So Peter says, great show. Thank you, man. Any LA clinics planned? Not right now. Videos this week. Cool videos coming up. I'm going to do an Amps in the Zone video for this Music City Laney built amplifier I have down here. that belongs to my friend Matt, and show it off because it's really fun. Also, another one coming up this week. I think I'm going to try and it's just a question of whether or not I can hook up with these people. But there's this Randy Rhoads guitar that I showed on my Instagram a little while ago. It's the RR3 prototype, the third one that was built for Randy that he never actually received. He was supposed to receive it the day after he passed away. It was when he was playing a gig in Miami. Supposed to play a gig in Miami. Never made it, of course, tragically. And that guitar was on its way to that venue for him to, start using. And it had all the changes and stuff that he'd requested from the black one. It had been the Concorde, the original white Randy Rhoads guitar. And then the black one was slightly updated body shape and different stuff. And then he wanted a few things different. That is reflected in this guitar. And so I know a guy that's got it. So I might, I'm supposed to try and make a video with it to kind of show it because there's a little bit of history. So that'll be fun. And then beyond that, I got a ton of videos to make there's that fuzz pedal I still have to do. We're Vine's Fuzz, I believe it's called, from the fellow in Montreal. Some new stuff from Victory, Carl Martin, Valbrook effects from Germany. When am I going to do all this stuff? I don't know. It'll take days. Quality problems. That's wild, says Todd. Super chats that I haven't hit here. There's one right. Or no, wait. I think I did miss one. I'm going to find it here. John says, when can I buy your new SIG guitar? Well, I never said it's my new SIG guitar, but I think probably, it's sort of, obvious. Nowhere as of yet, but more to come on that soon, relatively soon. Yes. Stephen says, with the assumption Tony Cornell will make an album, do you think you would be a part of it? I would love to be involved in any capacity that they, I'm there for that family no matter what. I'm not going to assume she's going to make an album, though. She could decide to be a lawyer, or she's still so young. She sings beautifully and really loves making music. So I don't know. We'll see. But it's one of those things where I think it's like it's that I don't want to speak for her, but it feels like it's still up in the air what she wants to do with her life. And she's so young. She's like 17, 18. So it's like, we will see. We will see. But I would love to be, and that's something that always. It's she ultimately. There's one part of me that thinks that, like, just speaking off the top of my head, there's one part of me where that really makes sense because of my connection with them and stuff, and I would love to do it in some capacity and do it. And then there's also another part of me that thinks, her age, like, is she, best suited to, be making music with like a, guy that's like, producer girl that's like 20 years old or something, 21 years old, and is really like more in her peer group. You know what I mean? So I just don't know about that, but I can help in any way. She is kind of an old soul, though. She really loves the Doors and like, cool old music and stuff. So not that, just speaking off the top of my head. Okay, I'm going down to the bottom of the chat here, all the way to the bottom. Big STP fan here. Have you met? What do you think of Dean DeLeo? Dean's a sweet guy. I know him. I know his brother better, but I know Dean, and Dean's always really nice. And did you see him on Tone Talk? I mean, that's how he is. If you watched his Tone Talk episode on Friedman's Tone Talk show, he's really kind. He's really easygoing. Kind of just really mellow, and I like him a lot. And his brother Robert's a lovely guy too. So and cool, playing cool chords and stuff. Dean, really great guitar player and stuff, but a lot of the writing and the chords, like Robert's a good guitar player too, and he wrote a lot of the stuff too. So you got to give him credit for the sound of that band. Robert's a really, he's a very complete musician in the sense that he plays guitar and plays bass and sings, and it's so they're both involved in the thing, when it comes to writing those tunes. I think I missed something. Anybody know the details on Pete's new guitar? I have it's not a secret. I have a prototype, sir, here that I've been playing for a while. I'll just show it to you. It's this one, with an entirely different kind of, ooh, look at that. You like it? Come on. So there's some unique things on this guitar. Of course, from my previous, guitar's signature models and stuff, this guitar is obviously hum single. It's made out of different woods. It's not mahogany. This is a more typical alder body with roasted maple neck. It's got an ebony board, which I did mainly for the look. Sound be damned. I wanted the guitar to be mainly, with a lot of black, but cool colors. So I like that look, compared to the rosewood I like as well, but I just wanted this one, the colors we chose and stuff. I like the slightly blacked out thing, black and chrome. And the new pickguard design and stuff. There's a different pickup in this guitar and the bridge that I haven't really talked about yet. So that's all happening. But it's got the bridge on it from my previous guitar, the Wilkinson with the lock saddles. Got series parallel for the bridge pickup in that pot. Different neck shape as well, which I haven't really talked about yet. The neck on this guitar was digitized off of a Mxr that I've had since 2010. The Cadillac green one that I have. 3 single coil. And it's got a little bit of a soft V to it in the back, just a little. And it's a bigger, slightly beefier neck than what's on my existing signature model. Same radius, 10 to 14, the standard Mxr radius. Heavy frets, the big ones. They're called heavy. Jumbo? I don't know. The big ones. So that's the spec. But it hasn't been announced officially yet or anything. We're just kind of, I took it out and used it on tour and stuff. This fella says, how was your last tour? Pretty good, because I got to use this thing. Look at how pretty it is. Come on. John did a beautiful job drawing the pickguard on this. I told him basically what I wanted to do, and then he drew it out, and we made little tweaks. But he's so good at lines and things. How was your last tour? Well, it was great. I had a lot of fun. Classic rock show. Warren Haynes is putting out a lot of videos. Okay, that's a great idea. I will ask Warren, because I know Warren. I will ask him if he wants to do the show. I haven't had a lot of guests recently, but to be honest, I do enjoy doing this without guests. I can really, it flows and it goes and it goes and it goes. It's just like 2 hours go by like nothing. So I look forward to this every week, just blabbing. Maybe that's just me being a narcissist or something, wanting to be in control. But I don't know. I have a fun time just doing it, because of course I can hit more questions and stuff like that. More if it's more like becomes an interview, and then we get talking, and then I miss a lot of you guys. It's not as personal, the interaction, I find if I've got guests. So it's evolved into that kind of show where it's a little different, where I sort of occasionally do guests, and mainly it's just me and you guys. I like it. I don't know. That's valid. Was out of context. Was in regards to EVH pickup having each string going. Oh, sorry, Todd. I don't know. That must be you commenting as somebody that commented in the chat. Okay, who are your influences? First up was the Who and the Beatles. Those were my biggest influences, and then quickly, Van Halen, and certainly like AC/DC. I had this like sort of two different sides, my sister and then this friend of mine that were introducing me to different things. My friend didn't like metal and hard rock. He was more like, the Jam and the Who, and he liked all that stuff. And then my sister was metal, so I would hear a lot of metal at home. And then my friend, he would show me this other stuff. So I had the different influences there. So second wave of, I guess, British heavy metal, Maiden and Priest, and, around the time that like, Screamer for Vengeance was out, and Number of the Beast, and those records. I loved those records too. So those were my early influences. When are we getting another John Sir Pete Thorn Tone talk? I'd love to do that. You've watched the other one too many times. Well, that's cool. I should tell John that you want more. Could talk about a lot of different stuff, what's going on with tubes and different things we could talk about. Ben Coombs says, just a reminder, he'll be live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Ben's got a show every week. He does up there in Canada, in the Ottawa general vicinity. Yeah. Nathan says that Dean DeLeo's playing on the song Lounge Fly is amazing. That's a cool number for sure. Yeah, they had some cool stuff. Saving up to buy the EVH Stripe Series Frankenstrat Relic. Thoughts on it? I feel like I won't modify it. Yeah, I haven't modified mine either, other than putting a trem setter in it. My two different EVH guitars that are kind of the Van Halen ones, the yellow and black one, the bridge on the yellow and black one is low enough to the body that it was able to sit back on the body for the Eddie thing, only bridge only going down thing with the whammy bar. I was able to set it up like that without needing a trem setter or any one of those things in the back, So in other words, the detuna on it it sticks out further on that low E string, and it pokes out kind of far. And if the bridge is angled too far back, it's going to start hitting the body, and then it's not going to work correctly. That's what happened on my red guitar. When the bridge is real low down as low as I can get it, and then I angle it back to kind of sit with the bass plate on the body so I can do just the Eddie down thing, the detuner was touching the body. It's just the way the geometry worked out with where the neck's in the guitar and stuff. So on that guitar, I bought one of those trem setter things. I just got off Amazon. It's like it looks like a little L bracket that goes in the back, and the block backs up against it. It works fine. It kind of bangs against that thing. That's sort of, but I figure Eddie wouldn't have cared about that anyway. He put a quarter, on his. So, and you can't really hear it through the amp when you're playing loud and distorted anyway. So I put that in there because it kept the bridge more, so when it stops, it's level. You know what I'm talking about. I'm saying the yellow one worked, striped one not so much, and I had to put that little thing in. That's the only mod I did. I haven't changed another thing on the guitar. The pickup, nothing, and it's fine. You can get into it, change the block, and mess around. I mean, I guess that's in the spirit of Eddie Van Halen modding things. But it's the most important thing to me is playing the parts right when you're playing that music on that guitar. So. Mitch says, I've heard you mention a few times recently, so it must be worth it. Pulled the trigger on a 78 Marshall cab with blackbacks in great shape, and it rocks. Dude, that's cool. It's awesome that you did that. I was talking to my fellow Matt, my friend, Matt, that owns that amp back there. That's the Laney. You can't see it because the chat's coming up, but it's a Laney made amp called the Music City. That's back there, that was made probably late 60s, early 70s. And it's basically a Laney super group. And we agreed, yeah, I should make a video on it. So I'm going to make a video on it this week. And Matt said, what speakers do you use? And I was like, blackbacks. I got my old blackback cab in the other room. He's like, thank you for using the right speakers. Because they're just the greatest. Like, that is the speaker, good blackback, greenback, and especially the late 70s blackbacks are my favorite. I think they just sound so like what I want a rock guitar sound to sound like. H30s are cool. There's all these other speakers that are cool. The M Magnet 25 watt. That's just where it's at for me. Yeah. You're anything but a narcissist. Thank you. I appreciate that. I would hate to be a narcissist. That would be a hell I wouldn't want to be trapped in. Oh man, Warren hurt his shoulder and he's taking a break. I know I'm taking a break too because my shoulder's, it's not as bad as Warren's, I don't think, but I definitely have I talked about it on the show and I still haven't been to the doctor because that's just how I am. But my arm's buggered up and I think it's my rotator cuff, so I need to work that out. But oh man, yeah, I heard Warren had to cancel some dates. I think it's mule dates, right? I think that he's not, needs to recover. So best to Warren. I will hit him up and see if he maybe wants to do an internet show since maybe he's home and recovering. Some of you are saying no guests, but or guests not needed, says Peter. I agree. I love to do it, but it's like with just like this, but it's fun to occasionally have a guest. I think I really enjoyed having obviously Peter Frampton. What an honor that was. And Richie and Sir and all the folks that have come on. I really appreciate them coming on. And it takes the show down a different path, but it's always interesting and fun, I think, and fun for me too. Are there any songs, albums, bands you used to love but cringe? Not really. Like if I loved it before, I might listen to it now and go, oh, it's kind of trite, like the production, or it's dated or whatever, but I still appreciate what was fun about it. Like the sound that originally, a little bit. I have a little bit of that, but what's great about Van Halen is I don't ever have that. Like there's no, at least, certainly 100% with the Dave era, those records never get old to me. They always sound cool. And even they only get cooler almost with the, And for stuff that came from the 70s or 80s, that's saying a lot because sometimes things can get dated, you know. And it's like there's just something about them. It's like, God, that is timeless and so cool, you know. You know, because I think people used to, like, critics used to pan them and stuff. Even, you know, the way that Panama came about is critics were like, "Oh, Van Halen, all they do is write songs about girls and cars," which is not true. And Roth was like, "I've never written a song about a car." Panama, okay, well let's write a song about a car. But he was, you know, because that's what they used to do. Now, when you listen to it all in retrospect, it's like, I heard "I'll Wait" on the radio yesterday somewhere. Yesterday, yeah, it was last night. Walking into a place and "I'll Wait" was on, and it just hit me like it was on the, and it's so great. Like, what a great song, great melody with a chorus that soars, and like, that's a sleeper that not enough. It should have been a bigger hit almost. It's such a good tune, so cool. But anyways, oh, you guys are asking about my my influences. Zeppelin. So, okay, early on, not so much Zeppelin, not so much Jeff Beck early on. That came to me later. So when somebody asked, what are your influences? I thought you meant like my earliest influences. I didn't really listen. In 1982 or so, 81, 82, 83, when I started listening to music, like when Van Halen became on my radar for guitar, it was like Zeppelin sounded to me back then. I'll just be honest about it. Zeppelin sounded sort of sloppy to me, and I didn't appreciate it. Like, I remember hearing Heartbreaker and going like the solo and going like, that's really sloppy. Like, I just didn't get it, you know? And because when you're young, it's like your appreciation is, I was more into like that it was like Yngwie was just coming out and stuff. And I was hearing these ripping guitar, you know, and that was like blowing my mind, like the guitar. And I would hear Zeppelin. I just didn't get it at the time, you know. Beck, because we ended as lovers and stuff. Okay, I listened to it and I was like, okay, it's really cool and I like it, but it's so slow and kind of like there's not, you know, you know how it is. Like when you're a kid, you're 13 or 12, you know, you're like, you don't have the appreciation for it yet. I didn't like Neil Young and stuff either. You know, that sounded like whiny something to me. When I hit 21, and I'd been shredding for years and practicing on all the videos, and the 80s was winding up and stuff like that, you know, and now it's like 1991 or 2, and all the music goes away anyway because of grunge and stuff. I went through this whole phase of like going back to what I first heard, which was The Who and the Beatles, before I heard any of these guitar players. First song I ever learned on guitar was Can't Explain by The Who. So that kind of almost like proto-punk, but with great songwriting, like energy of Pete Townsend, the Beatles, you know, that was my earliest thing. And then I quickly went into like, you know, I got into this guitar thing and more metal and stuff like that all through the 80s. Jeff Beck and I heard Guitar Shop and I thought it was pretty cool and stuff, but they weren't really on my radar at all, you know. Then Eric Johnson comes out. That was cool. It's like, okay, he's different. He's acoustic songs and stuff, but he's also just ripping on guitar. But, you know, Avia Musicom's got some beautiful songs on it, 40 Mile Town and all that kind of stuff. So that was like, oh, I really like this. Like, it's cool as I was getting older. Then I kind of went through this phase of like Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, like, and like Joni's guitar playing blew my mind. I was like, oh, kind of getting away from like this shreddy, you know, it was getting old for me for a second, like that stuff and that sound and Dirty Marshalls and stuff like that. Like I just got totally away, got an acoustic guitar. I started a duo and was doing, you know, sort of singer-songwriter stuff with this girl and just totally different. Then I heard Neil Young again and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. Like Harvest Moon came out right around then. I was like, this album is so beautiful. And then I started getting into, Jeff Beck and Led Zeppelin. Oh, okay, Led Zeppelin, the Rain song. Oh, I get it now. I also joined a band right then with this guy, Frank Symes, who is a massive Jimmy Page and Hendrix fan and stuff, and started turning me on to. So then I started going back and listening more, and Gilmore and stuff, because I wasn't really into Pink Floyd either in the 80s. Just wasn't. I was into Maiden and Judas Priest and Van Halen and AC/DC and a little more, you know. So that was my journey. You know, and through my 20s and into my 30s, like you kept discovering stuff that maybe, you know, and I'm still discovering stuff that I don't know that much about. So I was at dinner the other night. We're talking about the guitar player from Moby Grape, you know, and somebody saying, you haven't heard this guy? Like, you got to hear him. I'm like, no, don't really know, you know. Somebody mentioned Billy Gibbons. So Billy Gibbons, I was into the early 80s. I saw ZZ Top on the El Loco tour, and I loved Billy. I always loved Billy from the time I started playing guitar. Early ZZ Top. I mean, I had, you know, the early records in Fandango and then El Loco, like when those records came out, when Tube Snake Boogie was like, you know, that was the single or whatever. I had the album. Like I had already started playing guitar by then. And then, of course, Eliminator came out and they blew up huge. But that's right about when I started playing guitar and getting interested. So this is an interesting question about Beck. Sorry, I'm going over here, but we're having fun. So why the hell not? Jeff Beck on a Les Paul or Strat. I like both. You know, I like his, you know, when he picks up a pick and does the rockabilly thing on a Gretsch, you know, he's just so cool. I don't prefer one over the other, actually. You know, he's such a big part of his playing now is the bar and the way that he uses it to do vibrato and kind of, you know, mimic a human voice. He used to do a little bit more of that, you know, differently when he would play the Les Paul and stuff. It was, but I feel like he's got a wider range with that now with the Strat. I love his playing with the Strat. So, but I like it all. He's a really, really interesting guitar player to me, no matter what. He's just very musical, no matter what, you know. So Freeway Jam didn't blow you away. Not really. I was a little too young. Had I been, you know, if I was 4 years older, probably yes, it would have. But you got to keep in mind the first guitar that I heard that really blew me away. As I'm getting into music, I hear the Who and the Beatles, and I'm like, this is amazing. I love this music. Super cool. Van Halen all of a sudden. So yeah, I don't know how to describe it. I think Phil X would probably, you know, he's a little older than me, but I think he would probably, he was really into Uli. I knew that. But Van Halen, that was the thing that lit the guitar fire. So when you get into Van Halen, you hear Freeway Jam or hear one of these other, took me later to appreciate it. Honestly, like when you hear Eruption when you're 12, you know, it's hard to, that's a bar. That's like, you know, where there was a technical brilliance and also just a fire and stuff. And also Yngwie was out and stuff. So no, I was like, I wasn't really listening to Freeway Jam and stuff then, or Jimmy Page. It sounded old to me. Like, oh, that's your older brother's music or your dad, you know, this is the new thing, you know. The Van Halen and stuff was fresh, you know. Jeff Beck is for adults. It is actually a little more. It wasn't like, it was more sophisticated. I don't even really consider Jeff Beck like a rock guitarist. I consider him more of a fusion guitarist. And then, you know, yeah, sure, you go back to Jeff Beck Group or whatever, the early course, that was like proto, almost Zeppelin, right? But I consider him in his own class. Like it's Jeff Beck music, and I needed to be an adult to appreciate it. You know, I couldn't be a teenager and appreciate it. That's true. You know, absolutely 100%. Now I think he's one of the greatest guitar players that's ever lived, you know. So not Hendrix, no, as much. And part of it that I always I lay the blame a little bit just on the era that it came out and the clarity of the, I couldn't hear his, it's not a dig on Eddie Kramer or anything really, because I've since come to appreciate Eddie Kramer's, you know, I interviewed him with Tim Pierce on the Tim and Pete show, and we had a great, you know, nothing but reverence for Eddie Kramer. But there was a, you know, during that era, what they were doing sonically, I couldn't really define with my ear the guitar with the clarity that I could at 12 or 13, that I could Van Halen or Stevie Ray Vaughan even, you know. So I came to Hendrix through Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know. But I talked to Mateus Sasato on the Tim and Pete show too. We had him on, and he said John Mayer was his portal to Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix. He didn't know Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix. He knew John Mayer because of his age. For me, it was Stevie Ray Vaughan to Hendrix, and I had to come and listen. Oh, let's go listen to Hendrix's version of Little Wing. Stevie was massive at the time, you know, in the blues rock. He was blues rock revolution, really, and his videos, and you know, were out. And it's hard to, anybody that grew up during this time, maybe they can relate to what I'm saying. But it was like, you know, when you're a kid, it's like, what's the latest and greatest is what's interesting. And then the stuff that was 10, 15 years old is like your dad's music or whatever. It wasn't even my dad's music, more like if I had an older brother, it would have been his. You know what I mean? But it was like that latest stuff and it was amazing. I mean, there was great Van Halen. We're not talking about like, you know, this is Van Halen 1, you know, Back in Black, Van Halen 2 and Women and Children First. these records were just a couple years old when I started playing. So this was the latest stuff. El Loco, I mean, ZZ Top was like current music, you know, it was like, so that was the music I was listening to, kind of whatever came out 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. That was the stuff I was really interested in. Contradicting myself a little bit because my first influences were The Who and the Beatles primarily. Got really into that stuff. But the 1970 through 76, anything that was happening right there wasn't really turning me on as much as what happened in the 60s and then what was really current around 81, 82. You know, that's it. Yeah. Todd says he's still not a Pink Floyd fan. I love Pink Floyd, but you know, it took me till the 90s to get that too. So it seemed really slow and moody and depressing. That's all I knew. But then later on, you almost need to be an adult to appreciate Pink Floyd too, I think. Wolfie's guitar plays multiple other projects and his missed show with Mammoth. They had to play last week as a 3-piece. Yeah, I saw that. They should give me a call. I'm just kidding. But no, I was wondering what was going on. Like, was he ill or was there some sort of reason that he wasn't? Because like, you know, also I kind of wondered what was going to happen with Frank playing with Slash, which I guess he's a part of, and he plays on the records, you know, in the Conspirators. They make records together. But I was wondering, like, that must be a hard thing to decide what band. It's a quality problem, but decide what band you're going to go with, like Mammoth or Slash's band. And then I saw they were down to a 3-piece with Wolf, and I was like, what's happening with all that? Because obviously he's up for a Grammy. It's like a current, you know, it's like, I don't know. I'm not trying to create content. I'm sure there's a reason for it. And evidently the trio show went really well, so it's great. But yeah, I don't know. I thought maybe he was ill or something, but if it's just like he's got another project, man, better be a pretty cool project. You know, because that's a good gig to have right now in the rock world. A pretty solid gig. I might be leaning towards sticking with that gig, but that's just me. I don't know. What do I know? What do I know? What do I know? What do I know? Let's go another few minutes. I've been going a long time. Wow, I've been going almost 2. Let's just go to 2:30, and then I'll get out of here and go get some lunch. Will you ever do the Sir Clinics again in the UK? Yeah, I would need to have a new approach, I think, because I did the clinic kind of a couple times at Peach, and it was a similar vibe, similar sort of, you know, I did my recording production thing, teaching, you know, how I layer guitar tracks and come up with sounds for each part and how I do drums and stuff. I did all that. So I don't know that I'd want to do the same clinic again. Excuse me. Might have to come up with a new concept. So, yeah. Jeff Beck told him his guitar playing reminded him of Buckley singing. Jeff Beck lit up and said he didn't consider Buckley an inspiration for his tone. Really? That's very interesting. Jeff Buckley's an amazing guitar player. You know, yeah, I mean, Jeff Buckley, I mean, he was a very complete musician, and God, what an untimely, like, you know, for him to go, it was just, he was just getting started, you know. That's another record I came to late. 10 years after it came out, I started listening to Jeff Buckley and was like, oh my God, did I ever miss the boat on this, you know, because I didn't listen to him in the 90s. And it was around 2005 I got into Jeff Buckley, and I just couldn't stop listening to that record once I got into it. You guys ever see the show where he's at the Metro in, you know, mid-90s in the Metro in Chicago? Some great videos on YouTube. Oh God, man, that is just great. You know, he was really good friends with Chris Cornell. Chris really, of course, appreciated. I really appreciated him. I think that's what Wave Goodbye is about, is Buckley, you know, I think. Great song. Yeah. Okay. Well, I should probably go soon, guys. I'll just wrap it up here, take a few more things. I appreciate how Beck keeps changing. Yeah, Jeff Beck was like a slow burn, like his whole career. He never, you know, was overexposed. He'd kind of go away for a while and then come back with a record. And he just has a very nice pace to his career and always kind of evolving in a really cool way. Kind of like a low-key Bowie. Never really did anything that wasn't cool. You know, he's always like very, you know, he still seems like even at his age, he's very cool. It's not like, he's maintained a level of quality, and if anything, just kind of keeps his fans interested in what he's doing. And it's not like, oh, play those old songs. It's like if he's got something new, I want to hear what's new, And I feel like that about, Bowie as well. It was always like, is it just really artistic, very cool. So Tom says, I was a victim of Mike Varney and the Shrapnels. Yeah, I mean, I had that too. I was really into, Michael E. Firkins and obviously Richie and like the different people, Paul Gilbert and Racer X and stuff. That was, at the time in 85, 86, that's just where my head was. I was really into trying to play fast, and, I liked all that crazy guitar playing and stuff. And it was cool too. Like Racer X actually had some pretty cool songs. So, it was just kind of crazy. But what is your favorite guitar to play? It changes. I mean, I love playing this one these days. I use this a lot. I'll pick it up. My Mxrs are like, my go-to default, like my signature, because it's like such a great tool. I can pick it up. They sound great. There's lots of sounds. They're in tune, and then my other guitars are like, my old 335 or a specific thing. If like I want it to rock and be airy, but bark with a humbucker and kind of low gain, then I go to that guitar, it's got a certain sound with an arrow around the notes because it's a 335. My old Strat or something, it's just got a vibe to it that is like a real resonant, beautiful single coil thing. So it just depends, yeah. Okay. You guys, I think, oh yeah, Greg Howe, says Sean. I haven't heard that name in a while, but yeah, Greg Howe, he was an influence on me too. And, I liked his band, the How To band with his brother singing, kind of, rock thing that he did. That there were some cool songs on that. I thought I haven't heard it in 25, 30 years. I'd have to go back and listen. But have you heard Def Leppard's new song? I did listen once. It sounded kind of cool, kind of glammy, kind of glammy. Pretty cool. What are some underrated Eminence speakers? I don't know much about Eminence. I don't. I'm such a Celestion guy. That's what I meant to say. So I'm not an expert in Eminence, that's for sure. Let's see. Niles says, you're new to me and I had your albums playing all night last night. I'm sorry I kept you up, but thanks, man. I hope it was fun. I appreciate that. Thanks for listening. I'll do more. I will. I promise. What else? My thoughts on Joe Bonamassa. I think Joe is obviously like he's an interesting cat where he's like he's almost like a curator of American guitars and guitar history, and like he obviously he's particular, and he's a really, really smart guy, obviously from a business perspective, and a ripping, burning guitar player. His new album, musically, I heard it at Bob Clearmountain's place because he did a Atmos mix. So I heard it in Atmos, which is amazing sounding. It's just a multi-speaker kind of surround experience where you're kind of in the middle of the band, and it's different than typical 5.1 surround, or it's much more immersive. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a very cool way to mix and record music. And so anyway, Bob did the record and mixed the record, and he played me some Atmos mixes, and that was amazing. And the music was really good. The string section on there, so the cellos are kind of flying around your head and stuff, and it was really cool. So that was neat. I've never seen Joe live or anything though, he's I gotta admire him with his, tenacity and his ability to be a self-made success in this business, because he really is, he's inspiring when it comes to, the business, the business end of it, so, anyways, what else? Let's see. I saw How To play Light Up the Sky live. It was awesome. I bet that was awesome. Probably pretty great. I seen them live once too, I think at MI. Yeah. They played at MI my orientation week. No. The 6 months before I went to Musicians Institute, my first NAMM show. That's right. That's where I saw them. My very first NAMM show was NAMM 1990. And I still lived in Canada. but I was going to MI. I was going to go, and I'd applied already and had the grants, because getting student visa and the whole thing in the process. I flew down to go to NAMM. So I'm way down in Anaheim, and Greg Howe was playing at MI doing a concert during NAMM, maybe the Saturday or Friday or Saturday night of NAMM. So I managed to figure out how to get from Anaheim. I didn't have a car or anything, managed to figure out how to get all the way from Anaheim up to MI, which is just feet, because it's friggin' far. And so I had to take a bus from one of the hotels or something in Anaheim at the NAMM show all the way to LAX. And then I figured out how to get from LAX to Hollywood on a bus, and then back again. Figured it out, and that was kind of scary for me at like 19. I didn't live in LA, and I was like, how am I going to do this? But I figured it out, and I saw how to play at MI. And it was all very exciting, because I was like, I'm going to go to the school in 6 months. I'm moving here, from Knucklehead from Edmonton. And that was a fun trip. I also got food poisoning on that trip. That wasn't fun. One more super chat, and then, guys, I'm going to split because I got to pee. That's the truth. And I'm going to go get some food. Just attended 2 of Andy Timmons' CD release party live shows. He's a great guy. Via Stage It for his new album, Electric Truth. Have you ever considered doing shows like that? I haven't really, but Andy's a master of it. And if I ever did do it, I would be picking his brain on how to do it, because he's way into it. I think Stage It, Matt Scannell from Vertical Horizon, I think that's what he uses. I think Richard Marks, I know these guys, and I could ask them how they do it and stuff. But yeah, I said to Matt, I said, the gig thing and the over the internet, and I just can't imagine. I just kind of feed off the crowd. And that's what I like. And he said, I know what you mean. And that's exactly the way I felt. And now I'm really enjoying it. So there you go. Maybe I shouldn't, write it off or something. Maybe it's something I should look at some point. But first I would need to get another record done, which I would like to do. So I really would. 5 minutes left, says Joe Neiman's, but I got to go to the bathroom, so I'm going to go, because I'm the manager around here. So the manager says it's okay to go, because I got to do what I got to do. Nature calls. You guys are the best. I appreciate all the super chats. I appreciate you being here every week. We had about 450 online for most of the show. That's just awesome. And I will be back next week with more. Hopefully by next week I will have done, like I say, I don't know if it'll be out or not, but this video, hopefully I can knock out for this Randy Rhoads guitar. I'll see if I can work that out this week somehow, because I think that's going to be really interesting. An Amps in the Zone video. Plus I've got a ton of demos to do and stuff. So hopefully I can get a lot of that done this week, and there'll be some interesting videos coming out, not just product demos, but some other kind of historical significance, sort of, let's curate famous guitars, not so famous guitars, famous amplifiers, not so famous amplifiers, but all sounding good and with some cool sound examples. All right. Everybody have a great week. Thanks so much.